from 14,448. Standing room only here at Boston Garden as the two teams are lined up at their blue lines. And we're ready again for the salute to the countries of Canada and the United States. At the organ, Ron Harry to sing René Rencourt.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of thy sons' command. With glowing heart we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night? Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Tradition meets with emotion. René Rencourt and the anthems. The referee for tonight's game is Ron Hogarth. The linesmen are Ron Finn and Wayne Bonney. Paul Stewart, the standby official. The off-ice officials are from Washington. His numbers during the regular season were pretty impressive, and the same in the playoffs. Patrick Waugh is a 1.95. 11-4, his record in the playoffs against the Bruins.
And Andy Moog has put up a goals against average in the playoffs that's really worthy of the 70s, maybe even worthy of the 60s, when the number to hit was under 2. 1.68 goals against average for Andy Moog, his record 5-2 in the playoffs.
Tonight's opening face-off sponsored by Showtime. Showtime exclusives. Here you see them, there you don't. Wesley and Bork, as in Game 1, start on defense in Game 2. But it is Burridge, Poulin, and Christian for the Bruins because of the line that the Canadiens have started. Richer on right wing, Skoglund and Corson up front with him. In the defense, Ludwig, as in Game 1, but he's accompanied in Game 2 by Chris Chelios. Puck flipped off by Wesley. It skipped through Burridge and is gathered in by Ludwig. On the turning stick of Chelios, floated one blindly, then went by Corson, set up by Moog, and taken by Bork. The captain of the Bruins, Ray Bork, floats one all the way out that skipped over the glove of Chelios and squibs back down on Waugh. Off the boards, he banged it for Richer. Given up off of Burridge to Poulin, and a wrist shot is snagged and then dropped. Picked up by Burridge, and he hit the outside of the goal with his wrister. Along the boards, turned back up now to Corson. Tied up by Ray Bourque, and the pass for Richer was behind. Burridge on the delayed offside tap, but the Canadiens touched it all the way back down near Waddle Comm.
Mike Milbury had a chance to work his team out yesterday, really for the first time in 2 weeks. He was a happy guy because the Bruins really put together a full-scale practice. They scrimmaged and everything. Unusual in one sense to see a team do that in the playoffs at this stage, but at the same time, Milbury said we hadn't had a chance to practice in a couple of weeks. Even in the Hartford series, we didn't practice, so the Bruins seized the opportunity yesterday. For that matter, as did the Montreal Canadiens. But the Bruins practiced here at the Gardens. Montreal didn't. They practiced at Boston University rink.
Off the face-off, puck picked up and controlled by J.J. Daigneault. Daigneault shovels back out, missed for McPhee, but the puck out of play, and so again, a face-off to result. And the Canadiens make another change, this time at defense, bringing out Desjardins along with Svoboda.
So many Montreal Canadiens were quoted as saying, one thing we did not do is take Andy Moog's vision away from him. And Pat Burns had to be a frustrated guy. Nobody shot the puck when they had to near the end of the hockey game when they had a man advantage. So tonight, you got to know that the Montreal Canadiens are going to try and screen Andy Moog more. They're going to try and drive for the net. Basically look for a lot of rebounds. It doesn't have to be a perfect play. And some of their key players said yesterday, we look for the perfect play. And you know what? You don't get a perfect play against the top defensive team in the league.
Puck picked up by Galley. Galley right back across to Carter. Offside again called on the Boston Bruins. Little conversation and a shove from Carter on Lemieux. I guess it shows some confidence defensively if you're in a 1-0 game and you're the team that's down to still try to cut it fine, knowing that your defense is probably going to hold and one's all you need to tie the game.
Yeah.
And maybe that was what Montreal got sucked into, but regardless, it didn't work.
No, that's for sure. No lineup changes for the Bruins tonight. Just one for Montreal, and he's out there now. Peter Svoboda, who was one of their 2 top defensemen against Buffalo in their series, is out there. He's got number 25. Dufresne is sitting tonight. The other guy that Montreal would like to get back, besides Mats Naslund, he is not in uniform tonight, didn't play game 1 either. But it's the kid, it's Matthew Schneider, who was their best defenseman against the Sabres in that series.
Canadiens averaging a year and a half younger in age and experience on defense than the Bruins. And Ron Finn with the eagle eye again has whistled down the third offside. Peter Svoboda passed out at the hotel the day before the first game.
The happy hour gets you, man, every time. Oh, it was the flu.
Yeah.
It was the flu, that's right. Different guy.
Well, another thing, too, is you get loaded up with antibiotics, and a lot of times they can really overdose on your system.
Yeah, no,
sometimes your chemistry just isn't right for it.
He actually lost consciousness, passed out, and they said it was only because of the flu, and that was certainly enough to keep him out of game 1.
Puck came back now to Galley. Galley just shovels it across for Don Sweeney. Crisply back to Galley again. 1.5 minutes gone, first period. Period that hasn't had any flow yet because it's some offside. And a giveaway by Janney. Courtnall wheels right back out. Look for McPhee. Nice back checking though by Galley. Gave it up to Courtnall though. And Courtnall able to bring it in. Has a man breaking McPhee. Lays it for him back under score! Mike McPhee one-handed. And it is 1-0 Montreal. Now we have penalties, but I believe they were after the goal was scored.
Yeah, I think so. It looks as if this one is going to hold up. That precious blue line is something that the Bruins gave away very easily right here. Look at Courtnall. Not only is he allowed to cross, but he's allowed to wheel and deal. And just what we talked about, McPhee just tried to go wide and break for the net. And space and time are 2 things that are so hard to find in this small building. But Courtnall found both. He had the space to cross the blue line, then he had the time just to give Mike McPhee a chance to break around Brian Propp. And you saw McPhee holding Propp's stick. I think that's what the Bruins took exception to. Doesn't matter. The Canadiens couldn't get one by Andy Moog in game 1, but it's taken them all of 1 minute and 48 seconds to score here.
Courtnall gets 1 assist, and that is the only one, as it was off a Bruin stick then to Courtnall, and he made the masterful play that you just saw. And McPhee certainly was no slouch either with that one-handed direction just inside the post. Back to play, it's Daigneault. pivoting away from the forechecking of Dave Poulin. Circle to circle goes to Dufresne. Dufresne away from Poulin, jammed along by Bobby Smith, but picked up by Burridge. On back to Bourque. Quickly onto the turning stick of Christian, but off again, and Bourque has the play. Right back up it comes to Burridge, and the Canadiens swoop toward him, and oh, was he ever cross-bodied into the boards by Lemieux. It is Dufresne walking it back out for Montreal. Donnell Dufresne drops it around the board. Logan back to stop, bumps it along for Bourque. Pivots for a pass to Poulin, and it was tipped away from him by Lemieux. Gathered by Daigneault and played to Dufresne, and then back to J.J. Daigneault again. On the turning stick of Claude Lemieux. Wheels back up ice. Tied up by Peterson. He's able to poke check it away, and Burridge ran into trouble. Bobby Smith battling with Burridge, and Lemieux helped it along. Poulin took his men out. Puck able to be picked up now by Bourque, and he brings it back up for the Bruins. Has Christian, but fires himself, and it's turned aside by Waugh. Bourque given a hard hit in the corner by Corson. Bobby Smith able to step it ahead. Nice pass across to Corson. 2-on-1 to Lemieux, to Corson. Corson dealt in deep by Bourque. Couldn't get a shot away. Splendid defensive play by Ray Bourque. Now it's Christian back up for the Bruins. On to Gould, who banks it off the boards, and Chelios is there. Off the glass, it skipped past Lyndon Byers and all the way down. Swept around by Moog. Taken by Byers. Boy, after a slow starting first minute and a half, the pace has been picked up. Canadiens leading 1-0 if you're just joining us. Stéphane Richer hands it across to Ludwig. Only one Canadian shot, 2 for the Bruins here. The one Canadian shot by McPhee went in. We'll return to Boston Garden after these words.
They got squashed in the corner. Watch who is back making this defensive play. It's Ray Bourque, Boston's captain. And all Corson had to do was slip it over to Lemieux, and Montreal had another great scoring chance. What the Canadiens are going to try and do on Andy Moog, and they were really open about it. The papers were full of it here yesterday. They said, we can beat Andy Moog high. That was what Hartford's scouting report said. We didn't do it in Game 1. We're going to do it in Game 2. Now, they've already gotten one by, and that was a low one off the post. But, you know, Mike, it was almost as if they were doing this, trying to do a sight job at Andy Moog, because so many guys were quoted saying, hey, he's not that good. We can beat him, and here's where we're going to beat him.
Ludwig's pass tipped away. On with it now comes Chelios. Checked off by Byers. And across for Richer. Richer picking his way through traffic, tries to get in, and saying no on that was Bob Beers. Nice pass ahead for Gould, but it went away from him, and Byers is after it. Wedged off by Skrudlin. Behind now to Svoboda. Peter Svoboda connects with Corson. Moving back out in a headman pass on to Richer. Took a chop from Carpenter. Wedged one in front, and Beers was able to clear that one back out. Now Desjardins pivots. Eric Desjardins walled by Carpenter. Delayed offside is on, and it's wiped as the puck turned back out by Gould. Svoboda hands it across to Desjardins. Then over for Gilchrist. Banks it back in off Beers. Around it swirls to be fed further by Moog. Back up for Beers. Popped one by John Weiss, and it's gathered in by Svoboda. 15:20 to go in the first period. Montreal ahead 1-0. Ewan tried to get through but couldn't. Desjardins slugged it in. Around the boards it goes, and Gilchrist will let it go because it would be an offside. Onside, Ewan fires one that's deflected wide. In comes Ryan Walter. Dumps off for Gilchrist. In front, a shot deflected. And maybe getting a piece of it. Moog rebound. Gilchrist the backhander. And Moog hangs on to that one. And then Peterson knocks a man down. Ryan Walter gets back up. Play stopped with 14:59 to go in the first period. The score of the game, the Canadiens won, and the Bruins no score. And trying to set up Andy Moog for this game tonight. Yeah. Now, if I'm Andy Moog, which I have no skill to be, but if I'm thinking about it, I'm going to say, they're going to try to beat me high. They say they can. I'm going to watch for him to go high. Maybe he got fooled on that first one, expecting something different. Or maybe he'll think that way the rest of the night.
If he's smart, he hasn't read the papers at all.
Yeah. Remember, Pete Peters said, I never read newspapers. He had a whale of a stack in his garage by the time the playoffs were over, though. Puck turned back over to Weiss. Ahead with this staggering was Carter. It's brought in by Carpenter. Carpenter backhands one that's blocked away by Desjardins. After it is Carter, pumped away from him. Good read by Carpenter. Flipped it into Carter. And then back across it sent for Keane. Mike Keane able to lay it in deep. He and Gary Galley go testing after it. And it is Moog able to lift it around the glass. And it's skipped back up for Carter. Across now for Weiss. Returns to Carpenter and a shot deflected wide by Daigneault. Picked up by Daigneault as the Bruins change once more. Keane can't get it. Instead, it's sent back for Ray Bourque. Bourque passes across, but off Wesley. And then Courtnall right in Wesley's way, and he went sprawling over him. Now Brian Propp pivots. Has Neely headed to the net. Canadian drive, and he dubbed it wide. Stepping to it is Keane. Down to the ice with a thud went Dufresne. Puck picked up by Cam Neely, who sent him there. Neely controls, feeds to Propp, drops to Bourque, hurries it wide. Blocked loose by Dufresne, behind to Janney. Around the boards, and boy, the Bruins have stepped up the level of this game, you can just tell. Bourque with a shot, off of Propp. Kick loose, Propp a shot, he scores!
Well, the Bruins really flexed their muscles on this one. Cam Neely turned the puck over along the boards. Watch the play by Janney with the skate. Perfect little touch with the skate. And we've talked about the Canadiens wanting to go high on Andy Moog. We also mentioned in Game 1 that we were going to see some go in upstairs on Patrick Roy. This was an end-over-ender that Brian Propp didn't get all of, and it's a good thing he didn't. He just caught the bottom half of the puck that was spinning, popped it up over Patrick Roy. This game's tied at 1, but two great plays on that one. One by Neely along the boards, and then a little kick by Janney to set up Propp.
McPhee with a pass, and Courtnall didn't control at the line, and so it's an offside call. Boy, is that a tight call by Ron Finn. If Courtnall is in control of the puck and has it on his stick, he can precede it in as long as he's carrying. A split-second call, and Ron Finn called back the breakaway to Courtnall. Janney and Bourque get the assist on Propp, second of the playoffs. First of the series at 6:24.
Right, here's the play that I was talking about right here on Dufresne that kind of sprung this play loose. Then he got Keane right after that. I mentioned Dufresne's not in the lineup. I got my Lefebvre's and my Dufresne's mixed up. It's Sylvain Lefebvre is the only guy that's out of the lineup that was here 2 nights ago. Dufresne was in fact on the ice for the Bruins' first goal.
Isn't it something when Neely threw that big check, all of a sudden the speed of the game picked up. Big drive by Ludwig around the boards, off of Moog, picked up by Peterson, rammed by Skrudland, and the puck out of play, and Peterson almost was himself. What a hit! There are fans across there that are leaning on the glass just checking it to make sure that it's not been popped loose from that hit by Brian Skrudland.
You know, the glass here is actually kind of nice to get hit against. Watch this. I mean, it's never something that you're going to go out there and try to have happen to you, but you'll notice if you watch, Peterson went down on that one, so that was a tough hit. The boards don't have that much give. But you notice where the Bruins come on and off the ice, which is down behind Patrick Roy. If you see any hits on that corner, you'll see guys jump up into the glass because there's about a foot of give. It just wows right back. I mean, and it's almost like a rubber band effect, and it's good. The more stable the boards are in the glass, the easier it is to get hurt. And here in Boston, they're loose enough in certain spots where you can really take a hit.
Well, Chelios decided to go high, and that one was snagged right mask high by Moog. Corson a shot. Golfed aside by Peterson, flipped in front, and Peterson hacked it away. Then we get the stoppage of play, as down on the ice is Skrudland. Ron Hogarth blew the whistle quickly. The Bruins had tried to clear, and the Canadiens kept. But Skrudland now being tended to.
See blood on the ice. He may have gotten hit with that shot. He was tied up with Alan Peterson in front. Maybe Peterson clipped him. Let's take a look at it. Oh, yeah. Boy, Peterson's stick came right up and caught Skrudland. Now, did anybody see it?
Ron Hogarth is directly beneath us. Perhaps a linesman did, but he has called over Dave Poulin. Greg Ludwig is there, too. Skrudland is definitely injured.
Oh, yeah.
And that's enough to get 5 in a game if anyone spotted it.
It's plenty.
We'll get the verdict in just a moment. Let's pause for this regional break. Sports Channel America's coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs will continue after these messages.
He's not a happy camper. He is angry with Ron Hogarth. He has lost Alan Peterson for the game. 5 and a toss for that stick that came up and caught Brian Skrudland. Look at Milbury still going at it. We'll show it to you again in front. And it was kind of interesting. Yesterday here at practice, Ron Hogarth and Wayne Bonney, a couple of the officials were out skating with the extra Bruins players. And they do that. They just like to get a little ice time. And Mike Milbury walked up to the glass. He wasn't on the ice with anybody. And he said, we shouldn't be letting him do this. He's going to stick it to us tomorrow night. I'm sure that's not what he's saying right now, but it was interesting thinking back to that statement when Ron Hogarth was out skating with some of the Bruins, just trying to stay in shape. But I don't know if Mike saw the play. By 1989-90 seasonal standards, that was an automatic call. He had to call that.
Second of the Bruins to get pitched from a playoff game because of a stick foul. The other was Bobby Carpenter, and when you get two of those, you have to sit a game. Unless it's in that gray category, there are three different ones. And if it's in the inadvertent category, either one of the two, why, then you aren't suspended. Corson tried to flip one along, and Wesley drilled it back down. There have been some rocking hits here early in the first period. 12:05 to go. Montreal ahead in the game 1-0. Their power play presented with a great opportunity, but it's not been a good power play at all. Off of Richer. Hit by Bourque. And Bourque able to clear it back down. In the playoffs thus far, there have been 16 fights. There have been 19 stick majors and game misconducts. It's changed a lot, hasn't it? Courtnall pivots, deals it back off for Corson, tries to center and can't. Puck shoveled along by Don Sweeney. Carpenter flips it back into Svoboda. Across it comes for the play by Chelios to Courtnall. In too deep, but he ricocheted one that popped up high off Corson. Behind the net, Don Sweeney. It's jam free. Back to Svoboda. His shot, and that deflected wide. And boy, they're getting the screen set up tonight. That's something that the Canadiens wanted to do that they didn't do in game 1. Bobby Smith wedges it across to Chelios. Hit by Carter. Around the boards, it's tapped loose over to Courtnall. Courtnall looks to the back. Fired one that was blocked down by Galley. 3:10 to go. Canadiens have had good puck possession. It's dealt on back to Svoboda. Looks to Bobby Smith. Pestered by Carpenter. Svoboda pivots off. Outside to Chelios. Slams one, and that one tipped. We get a stoppage of play, and Ron Hogarth is going to take one, maybe two off. Bruins fans are applauding, but I think it may be coincidental. We'll have to see.
I don't know if it is. I mean, I'm watching Ron Hogarth. He's pointed at Don Sweeney, but I don't see any Canadiens heading to the box. See which door opens up. Now the Bruins have a problem. It is only a penalty to Don Sweeney. Here's the call.
Our vision of the penalty box right beneath us is blocked. Peter Svoboda had gone there promptly. Good boy that he was.
He beat me to the box. I'm leaning over to look. There sits Svoboda. Now, come on, Peter. You got to argue long enough to give us time to notice what's going on out there. Now, coincidental.
Roughing to Don Sweeney and high sticking to Svoboda. And so it remains a major penalty power play for Montreal. Propp able to clear it back down. Yeah, you have to argue to make these things look good, right? Like you've been done wrong, but Peter was obedient and sits there now watching the play right in front of him. Dufresne across for Lemieux. Angles it off the boards, and Bourque there guides it off of Brian Propp. Propp pumped in long, and it is gathered in by Duchesne and then knocked down and brought on by Propp. He's got a trailer on the play. Wesley feeds to him. Wide with the shot, and getting a piece of it perhaps was Desjardins. Right back up with it now. Trying to get through was Lemieux, and it's forced back down by Poulin. J.J. Daigneault walks it back up for the Canadiens, who are down to the last 2:12 of their power play. Mold swings it around the glass, knocked down by Gilchrist, turned along by Wesley. They couldn't get it out. Bobby Gould scraps for it, but it is Gilchrist again to the back, and it's worked around by Desjardins. Then over to Ryan Walter, back to Gilchrist. Deals it off to Walter, has Lemieux at the front, but he's watched. Now Desjardins, a shot deflected, it went wide. Good screens being set up by the Canadiens. A rocking hit, that time on Walter. A shot by Desjardins. It's deflected to the glass. Moving back in is Daigneault. What a hit on Bourque. And it's Gould dropping it back down. 1:35 to go on the major penalty power play, and the Canadiens give it away. It is Galley blasting it back down the ice. Canadiens have taken the opportunity to make a change. Dufresne working with Chelios. Up front, Bobby Smith along with Richer and Corson. That's a good group they have out there to try to finish it off. But Bobby Smith is chased away by Bob Sweeney's checking. Has to give it across to Chelios. Moving ahead and flipping one to the corner. Goes right after it, shouldering there with Beers. Picked off by Bobby Smith. Worked on over to Corson. Looks to the front. We've got a penalty coming up. Cross-checking against Montreal. For a minute and 3, both teams will be short. Then there will be a Bruin power play. 8:53 left in the first. 1-1. Let's pause for this regional break. Sports Channel America's coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs will continue after these messages.
Well, now I'm really baffled. There is a cross-checking penalty to the Canadiens. Chris Chelios came over to the box. And now Bobby Smith has joined him. The Bruins had a great scoring chance when they were down a man. Prop to Wesley. And Desjardins just got a piece of it to deflect it wide. Watch this hit by Daigneault on Ray Bourque. Oh, we can't see it all.
24, Chris Chelios.
You might not have had a chance to really feel the full impact of that hit.
15,
but was it major?
2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct.
There was the cross-checking penalty. That was on the left. That was to Chris Chelios. You may have heard that Bobby Smith also picked up an unsportsmanlike penalty. Where's the discipline gone from game 1? What's happening here?
Boy, it can change a lot in 48 hours, can't it? We had a very calm, conservative first period in game 1. High sticking to Chelios on sportsmanlike conduct. Up to Bobby Smith, and a penalty has been handed out to Beers as well. And so that means that we just go 4 aside. A minute and 3 from now, the Bruins will have a 57-second power play. So already in the first 12 minutes of play, we've had nearly as many penalties as were handed out entirely in game 1. Puck drilled back in by Daigneault. Around the boards it skipped. Set up now for Galley. Galley turns it back over for Bob Sweeney. Then Galley again. Working across for Wesley into the glove of Randy Burridge. Burridge forced to the corner by Desjardins. Pass tipped away by Daigneault. Kept by Wesley though. Around for Burridge, but it skips over to Daigneault's side. Bob Sweeney moves to him. Got there first. Hit a glass support with his pass. And Gilchrist will take over for the Canadiens. In half a minute, the Bruins power play will begin. 8:20 to go, first period. Game tied at 1. The Bruins lead this best-of-7 series 1 game to 9. Bob Sweeney guides it back, and Sweeney had a stick up high on Corson. There will be no Bruins power play. Mike Milbury searches the rafters for an answer. 1-1, first period.
We got this one straight. Bob Sweeney is off for hooking. And that gives the Montreal Canadiens a little chance here on a 4-on-3. Now with the Canadiens they had their 5-minute man advantage. They got cut short. They ended up with 3 minutes and 57 seconds of power play time. They attempted 5 shots on Andy Moog. I saw one of them stopped by Moog, but the shot keeper here didn't give Montreal credit for one. So it'll go into the record books as 5 attempted shots, no shots on Andy, but Moog did make one. But now Mike Milbury has to kill this off. If Montreal has a far greater number of power plays in this game, you know it will have to help them out. But all things being equal, if the numbers of power plays are the same, you know that the special teams edge, and we talked about it, has to go to the Bruins.
Right. 9 penalties called already in the first 12 minutes of this game tonight, and there were 13 in the entirety of game 1. Peter Svoboda moving in, Galley on him, puck back to Richer. Gives it back to Ludwig. Fires a shot, and Moog made a save there. Screening in front was Ryan Walder. It's gloved for control by Svoboda. Has to deal it back, though, as Walder was kept from getting out. And it is Ludwig able to walk back up with it. Still 4 aside. 38 seconds from now, the power play will begin. Richer trying to get in. Had it forced away. Taken, though, by Bourque. And Bourque now working it back out to Dave Poulin. Poulin controlling, wedged off by Dufresne. Dufresne able to pump one in front. Oh, and Carter with a shot. And Waugh got a piece of that one. Dump back off, and Wesley rammed into the boards by Dufresne. Poulin a little pass. Bourque with a nice keep back to Poulin. Had trouble controlling though, and up with it is Richer. Guides it back off in 8 seconds. There will be a penalty expiring, but we get an icing call since both teams are a man short right now. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Sports Channel America and is intended for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this event without the express written consent of Sports Channel America is prohibited. The Chelios minor will be up in 4 seconds. Then it will be 42 seconds of Montreal power play time. Poulin and Propp, the tandem together as penalty killers in Philadelphia for almost a decade. We'll work up front for the Bruins. Wesley and Gallion back. Gilchrist and Dufresne and Corson, as well as J.J. Daigneault, who takes this tap from Waugh. Waugh at one end, Andy Moog at the other, and the power play has begun to Montreal. Moving in Corson, hands over to Daigneault. Couldn't get it to the front because of Wesley. To the boards, they battle for it. Pivoting is Gilchrist. Then it's Courtnall. Courtnall looks, beats it cross ice. Chelios fires on. He was trying to connect with Corson at the front for a tip, and it didn't work. Around the boards now with 18 seconds of power play time still to go to Montreal. Brian Propp able to clear, and the Canadiens chase. Shift change for Boston. Janney hops over the boards. Coming out also Don Sweeney and Bourque. Burridge also up front for the Bruins as the Canadiens mishandle, and now Svoboda bringing it on. Drops it back off for Corson. Flips one. That is knocked down by Don Sweeney. Penalty time is up and the teams are back at full strength. It's laid on to Bob Sweeney, but he lost it off his stick, and Svoboda guides it across, and Chelios had to tap quickly as Burridge was right on him. Fed along the boards and carried in by Skrudland. Across for Courtnall, and a shot is right on goal and turned aside by Moog. 5:50 left in the first period of play. Spirited action here at Boston Garden, and the game tied at 1. 6 shots Montreal, 4 for the Bruins. Penalty coming up for the Canadiens. As last night, Skrudland protests. We'll return with a Boston power play in just a moment.
To put a stranglehold on this game as far as any minor infractions, Brian Skrudland is off for holding with 5:40 to go in the first period. Watch Randy Burridge just duck down on him kind of and almost took Skrudland down as he ducked down, but Ron Hogarth decided to call it. Brian Skrudland didn't like it right away. You can see that where he took that stick from Alan Peterson up by his right nostril. You can see that he's got a cut there. Peterson was thrown out of the game, and the Montreal Canadiens had a 5-minute power play that they didn't score on.
Dave Christian to take the draw. Janney had moved back to the point for the faceoff. He may stay there working with Ray Bourque. Puck fed over to Bourque. Bourque deals it off to Cam Neely. Propp at the front, so is Christian. Bourque works the outside Neely. Across to Janney. Fakes the drive. Moves in. Over to Neely. A shot flipped off the top of the net. To the corner, it's dealt along by Carbonneau. Still the battle on, and Neely able to deal it off to Janney. Looks, fires a shot that is blocked down. And turned back across now for Keane. Mike Keane moving ahead, just chewing up some time. Tries to get by Bourque, then goes down. Well, why not?
Yeah,
I mean, it's worked before. You might as well bail
exactly.
right out.
That's what this kind of call does to the game. You've got guys that are going to fold up now every chance they get.
Brian Propp had a try on Waugh, who held on. And isn't it different what we saw in Game 1 and what we're seeing in Game 2 in what you can get away with?
Exactly. Craig Janney dumped this one all the way down off the boards for Brian Propp, and it came out before Waugh could get to it. The boards here are predictable, but they're also difficult to control in the corners. Most of the time, because of the curvature of the corners, when the puck goes in there, it comes out front and it comes to the goalie, but that one kind of bounced right back out to Brian Propp. You saw that Neely tried to go high on Patrick Waugh too. As soon as the heat gets turned up and the play gets in close, Patrick Waugh will go down. So not only will the Canadiens try to go high on Moog, but you'll see the Bruins try to jam some upstairs on Patrick here tonight too.
It's not really a new criticism either. This has been said since back in the 50s and 40s. When you have differences in individuals, you're going to have differences in the way that games are conducted. And there is quite a difference tonight from Ron Hogarth's game to Andy Van Hellemond. Carbonneau dumps it behind. Klopp moves toward it. Brushed along by Keane. Picked up by Christian. Penalty coming up. Backhander by Christian went wide, and then he collided with Waugh. There'll be a penalty coming up to Montreal. And this will result in a 5-on-3 for the Bruins. 4:38 to go in the first period. Game tied at 1.
Off for slashing. The Bruins are on a 5-on-3. Here's a look at it right along the boards. That's Brian Propp going at it. Dave Christian moved in, but Keane slashed Brian Propp to try and get him to let go of his stick. And that's what Hogarth called. 59 seconds to go in the first penalty. That's a long time to Brian Skrudland. So it'll be at least a minute of 5-on-3.
Bruins in the playoffs are 1 for 4 on 5-on-3s. The Canadiens are perfect in 5 kills. Chelios rockets it around the boards, and Carbonneau tipped it back out. The other Canadian out to comprise the Iron Three is Craig Ludwig. Janney feeds it across. It skips over to Galley. Nice drop over to Bork. Moves in. Cannon shot! And a save made by Waugh. Behind now it's Cam Neely. Had Janney. Works the outside over to Galley. Galley just holds. Feeds it off to Neely. Back to Galley. Bork, one-timer high off Ludwig, and he's felled by the shot. Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
They grow up tough in that football country up in Wisconsin, don't they?
You had us, Craig.
Oh.
But watch the triangle. But look where the penalty killers are. They're right in deep. That looked like it could have gotten him in the face. It didn't. It got him in the chest, no problem. He took the mandatory 4 count, popped right up to his feet. Yeah, I'm okay. Let's keep going. Did the whistle go? No problem. Tough guy. But Montreal's penalty killers, Mike, really interesting. They're not even coming close to forcing. They're giving any type of shot that the Bruins want to take from the point. Galley wouldn't take it either. Finally, there was one taken by Bork, and you saw where it hit Craig Ludwig. Brian Skrudland took 6 stitches in the nose from that high stick by Alan Peterson. And Craig Ludwig came within about 6 inches of having his face blown off by that shot.
Play continues on the 5-on-3. 23 more seconds on the first penalty. It is Christian jostling at the front. Chelios and Neely, and the shot ricocheted wide. Then Neely goes down. Puck picked up by Janney and fed over to Beers. Beers right back to Janney again. Beers at the back. Janney with not much room. Puck tipped away by Guy Carbonneau. Brushed on by Carbonneau. He and Beers go after it, and Beers without a stick. Carbonneau with some heady work for Montreal and penalty killing. First minor is over. What a hit applied by Skrudland on Neely just now. And they're having words, and Skrudland paws at Neely as walking ahead is Bork. Hammers it around the glass. It swirls behind and comes back near the point. Bork takes it. Hands over to Bob Beers. Beers with a shot. Knocked down in front. Loose puck, everyone looking for it. Chelios up with it. Still they scramble for it. It's taken by Janney. Janney points it back to Beers. Looks to Bork and gives to him. Across for Janney. Stoppage of play. Coincidental minor penalties. With 3:06 to go in the first and 28 seconds still to go on the 5-on-4.
Boy, Brian Skrudland has his playoff courage turned up. He's got 6 stitches in the nose, and he's willing to go with Cam Neely. Coincidentals will be to Christian. And it looks like Dufresne, they had their own battle going in front of Patrick Roy. Well, Sports Channel America and USA Today want to put you in the Stanley Cup Finals. We're giving away a round trip for 2, including airfare and hotel accommodations, to the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals. To enter, send your name, address, and daytime phone number to USA Today Stanley Cup. For more details, look for the Sports Corner in USA Today. Entries must be received by May 4th. Enter today to win the Sports Channel America USA Today giveaway.
Well, Skrudland is back in the box. Neely is too. in addition to the original 2, Dufresne and Christian. So we are now up to 7 penalties to Montreal, all minors, and 5 minors and a major to Boston. So we have equaled the number of penalties called in Game 1.
You know, Mike, Boston on their 5-on-3 was like Montreal near the end of Game 1. They didn't want to shoot the puck. Right in the middle of your screen is that battle between Dufresne and Christian. That is what was called. But when a team is defending with just 3 guys in a real small triangle,
Bork, a shot deflected wide, picked up by Bice, cleared off by Carbonneau and down.
when a team is in that small triangle, you can pass it around all you want. You're not going to get them out of position. You know why? They're not moving. I mean, they're like pylons out there. You have to take what they give you in that case, and what they were giving them was the long shot. They didn't take it.
Bork floats it around. Ludwig moves back in, fires it around the wall. Carbonneau is there. Penalty time is up. A shot ricocheted wide and is gathered in by Bork. So the teams are back at full strength as Dave Poulin ahead. On the wing to Bice. Dumps it to the corner. First one in is Burridge. Canceled out neatly, though, by Desjardins. Ludwig wraps up with Burridge. Trying to jam it loose is Poulin, and he's sent to the wall by Desjardins. Emerging with it is Carbonneau, but his pass was away from McPhee and back down. And we will have an icing call as Beers touches up with 2:08 to go in the first period, and our game is tied at 1.
Well, there was a lot made about this series concerning the history, the fact that the Boston Bruins have only defeated Montreal 1 in the last 20 meetings in the playoffs. Mike Milbury said, we're not facing Jean Beliveau, we're facing Patrick Roy and Stéphane Richer, which made a lot of sense, but I think you can throw history out the window too, and I'll tell you why. The two teams used to be drastically different in style, didn't they? Boston was big, tough, grinding, hitting team in this small building, and Montreal came in with a finesse game and the slick puck handlers and the scorers. Well, now these two teams are as close to being the same as they've ever been. Boston is smaller than they used to be. They don't get a lot of penalties. They play a finesse game, hard-working game, good defensively. Montreal is the very same way, and in that sense, the contrast in styles won't mean a thing.
Oh, a shot by Carter, and then a rebound by Carpenter, and he got the glass as Waugh has made a couple of good stops. Bobby Smith turns it across. Desjardins walking it ahead for the Canadiens, just fires it around the glass, and it pops behind. Bob Sweeney goes down along with Smith. To get it is Beers. Oh, nearly stripped from him by Corson. Carpenter guides it back out. Boy, there's been some tremendous hitting and some sensational goaltending, especially lately from Waugh. Carpenter had that one drop back to Carter. Trickles it to the corner. There'll be a penalty coming up. It's against Montreal, and the Bruins will go on the power play again.
This time it's number 28 for Montreal, Eric Desjardins. Took Bobby Carpenter down on the slot. While they were locked up in the slot, the play was going on in the corner. Desjardins is about to get called, but watch this in the corner. Peter Swoboda got a stick up, and then it almost looked like Corson hit Carter with a stick right in the face after the play. Had to know he was there, too.
Montreal penalty to number 28, Eric Desjardins. 2 minutes for cross-checking.
Cross-checking to Desjardins.
Montreal, Eric Desjardins for cross-checking at 18:38.
So this will become the third Boston Bruins power play. Score of the game is 1-1. 1 minute and 22 seconds to go in the first. The Bruins have a huddle, and Dave Poulin breaks it. And the alignment across for the faceoff will be Janney on the right, Bice on the left, Poulin at center. Bork right point, Wesley left point. Keane and Chelios, Carbonneau and Ludwig to kill it off in front of Patrick Roy. Chelios pivots and lifts one that's gloved down by Bork. Nicely able to keep play alive, but it's gloved down out of the air by Carbonneau, and he moves ahead with Keane. Carbonneau just controlling. The Canadiens captain trying to get through. Fires a shot and getting a piece of it moved. And again, some splendid penalty killing from an individual standpoint by Guy Carbonneau. Up the boards it went off Janney. Dealt right back down in the final minute of this first period of play. Glenn Wesley brings it back out for the Bruins. Sliding it over to Janney. Hits the line and plays to Poulin. They play the hard around, and it's skipped by Chelios back to Bork. Off of Bice. but to Ludwig. Flipped it off Knight. Picked up by Poulin. Steals it behind for Janney, but it's cut off by Ludwig. Rolled around the boards, but waiting is Wesley. Banks it back off, hoping for Janney, and he gets it. Backhander came all the way to Wesley. Across now to Bork. Traffic in front. Wesley angles one off the boards, and it's picked up by Walder, and Walder just swings it back down and into the glove of Moog.
That had to be Wesley just pulling out of the shot when he saw Keane down in front of him. I mean, he had no reason to shoot in the corner at all.
15 seconds left in the period, and it's cleared in on Moog again. He taps over to Wesley. Pulling up in front is Gilchrist. Bruins will have to hurry to get one more shot here. Wesley will take it. Why? 1 second. The siren goes. And the first period comes to a close with the two teams tied at 1 goal apiece. Patrick Waugh faced 9 shots. Andy Moog also faced 9. Montreal has finally dented the armor of Moog. It only took them 1:48 to do it in the first period. Brian Propp answered for Boston at 6:24. Courtnall got the lone assist on McPhee's goal. Janney and Bork assisting on that of Brian Propp. So 20 minutes have been played here at the Boston Garden. At the end of the first period, the score of our game: the Canadiens won and the Bruins won.
Well, it's time to look at the players which had the most impact during first-round action in the Adams division. It's called the Prudential Player of the Series. Well, during the Bruins series against Hartford, Cam Neely took charge of the Bruin attack. He scored 4 goals. In the absence of Ray Bork and Craig Janney, Neely came up big. 4 goals, 6 assists, and 10 points. Meanwhile, in Montreal series against Buffalo, the key there, goalie Patrick Waugh. Waugh came up big. He turned back many great Sabre opportunities, and Waugh, we salute him. 2.10 goals against average, including 1 shutout. Patrick Waugh, the Prudential Player of the Series for Montreal and Buffalo. That wraps it up from our New York studios. Period 2 from the Boston Garden comes your way after this.
Bruins won, the Montreal Canadiens won. Bill, last game you were talking about, especially in the small ice surface, the Bruins have to make quick, good decisions. Yeah. They got caught very early in this game with a bad decision by Gary Galley.
Exactly. We're going to take a look at it, and it starts in the neutral zone. The neutral zone here in Boston is 8 feet shorter than regulation, and then we're going to show you right now what happened to Gary Galley on the goal that Montreal got to start the game. Galley had a chance to make a play in the neutral zone that just never happened. I mean, he was trying to dump the puck, and I promise you, you're going to see this. I promise you. You're going to see Gary Galley in the neutral zone trying to make a play that just never happens. There's nobody there. Montreal's neutral zone forechecking really worked out, and as a result, well, we'll pick it up at this point. At this stage, Courtnall's already picked up the puck and dumped it into McPhee. And what you didn't see was Galley trying to dump the puck to an open guy that wasn't there. Montreal's forechecking in the neutral zone is exceptional. Watch this. You'll see 3 forwards. There are 2 forwards right there. And there's Galley's pass, right? There is Courtnall. That's what Montreal does better than any team in the National Hockey League. What they do is they flood one side in the neutral zone, so they really overload. And if you try to make a play to that side like Galley did, you see what happens.
Wonderful lockup by Guy Carboneau on Galley that really forced him into the bad pass. You know, we went almost 5 minutes, and there was some wonderful hitting in the game. There were some penalties, but I think one of the keys to Boston's goal was the fact that Cam Neely really leveled a hit. And all of a sudden, this game went from 33 1/3 for Boston up to 78 RPMs, and they eventually did get the goal that tied it.
Yeah, you don't need to be actually a guy that gets an assist to be an important part in the play. There are so many important players on teams around the National Hockey League that don't pick up points on goals, but that are really important to the play, and that was the case. See Neely on the right of your screen? Well, watch what he does here. Mike Keane going to the boards, and Neely with his strength just blows Keane to the boards, pops it back to Ray Bork, and when Ray Bork takes a shot, it's going to bounce right there off Brian Propp to Craig Janney's skate, and right back to Brian Propp for that goal. So Neely was the 4th guy on the play. He didn't get an assist, but you saw that big push on Mike Keane that really helped the Bruins on it.
There will be power play time, 39 seconds of it still to the Boston Bruins when the second period gets underway. The score of our game from Boston Garden, a 1-1 tie. Power play will commence for the Bruins with this face-off. They have 39 seconds still to go on this man advantage. 9 minors to Montreal in the first period. 6 minors, a major, plus the game misconduct to Al Peterson for the Bruins. So the Bruins will have 5 guys on their blue line for periods 2 and 3 of this tilt, as well as almost all of period 1. encroaching Keane and Prop, and so Ron Hogarth will hold up the start of the second period. Underway with Guy Carbonneau taking over. Carbonneau has been one of the 3 stars through the first period of this game in my mind. This is chopped loose by Neely, and so it'll have to be set up by Wesley. Not only did Carbonneau have a key role in the first Montreal goal, but he has been sensational in penalty killing, and the Canadiens have had quite a bit of that to do. On now comes Wesley. Whole open drive. Oh, and he got the post with a shot past the glove hand of Waugh. Now it's Bork moving in. Deals it back over to Wesley. Wesley flips one. That one blocked aside by Waugh. Chelios denied, though, by Janney to Prop. Spun one back for Neely. Kicked over to Bork. Bork right back to Prop. Penalty time is up. Prop sent one in front. Guided away by Ludwig. Brushed aside by Neely. Taken by Janney. Deals it back to Wesley. Across the board. Shovels one. Blocked high. Loose puck aside of Waugh. They backhanded. And the Neely shot was tipped away. To the corner. Brian Prop locks up there with Keane. Chelios trying to lock it up too. Along the boards, tipped loose by Neely. The battle on and the puck wedged back to Wesley. Wesley back over for Prop. Hatchett's one that kicked across the goal mouth and came back over for the carry by Desjardins. Desjardins just lays it back in, and the Canadiens make a change. 1-1 the score here at Boston Garden with 1 minute and 20 seconds gone in the second period. Murray just entering pass, and that's kicked away by Richer, and then Dufresne tries to work it along but can't. Back behind Waugh, let it go, but it's picked up by J.J. Daigneault and headed back out for Corson. Denied by Galley, but ahead comes Stéphane Richer. Richer had this one wedged away, but it's followed up by Dufresne. His shot went off of Bob Sweeney, and Sweeney is hurt. He caught that one up around the left side of the face and is checking his ear.
You know, some helmets have better protection for the ears than others. You can see that helmet, the ears are wide open. I got a feeling Bob Sweeney has a bit of a ringing in his head right now. Watch this shot by Glenn Wesley. Bingo, he had it by Patrick Waugh, an area that really is the easiest area to put that glove out to catch, halfway up the net. But Wesley just blew that one by him.
Just looking down the Bruins bench. Dave Poulin isn't there. He's not on the ice either.
No, he didn't come out with his line, did he, when that last group was out there? Bob Sweeney was out there at center.
Corson, a shot blocked away by Moog. Another swipe by Corson. A backhander by Richer. He scores! Stéphane Richer has broken the tie with his second shot in the game. He had one in the first period. This is first in the second, and the Canadiens take the lead 2-1.
And it's not a typical Richer goal either. We're used to seeing an end-to-end rush with a big blast at the end of it. This is just a little tap in on the backhand. Watch what happens. The Bruins are in pretty good shape. They've got 5 men back in deep, but they're not on the right side of the net, and Richer was able to get a rebound, just slip it in on the backhand. But look at the Bruins, 5 of them back there, but not on the right side of the net. Richer found a little bit of daylight under Andy Moog, and the Canadiens lead 2-1.
We'll pick up the assist for you. Richer's 6th goal of the playoffs, first of the series at 1:54 of the second period. Teams are at full strength. Montreal ahead 2-1. Puck work back now for Dufresne to control. Dufresne backhands it in, and starting back for it now is Wesley. It's set up for him by Andy Moog. Wesley pulling away from Bobby Smith checking, then Smith right on him again. Puck skidded back over to Daigneault, and Daigneault right across to Dufresne, quickly back out to Walter, given a good shoulder by Bork. Daigneault couldn't kick to control. It would have been an offside play anyway. As around the boards, it's guided back to Bork. Speeds it back over for a shot by Galley. Juggled by Waugh. Then he goes down in a second decision about going out. Puck turned back out now to Lemieux. And Lemieux really reefed by Bork. And Bork hands it back to Galley. Off the boards, he kicked it across for Carpenter. It looked like a two-line pass, and the Canadiens are steamed at the same thing. But it's an offside call against Boston anyway. 17:01 to go in the second. 2-1 Canadiens.
But the shots attempted, Boston tried more. Montreal didn't get a shot on goal. A lot of them were blocked, some of them were wide. Neither team scored a power play goal, but that has been the knock on the Montreal power play. Not enough shots and not enough attempted shots. When they try, a lot of them go wide.
Lemieux and Carpenter get coincidental minor penalties, so manpower on the ice not affected. But the teams are without the use of those two players for at least 2 minutes and likely more. First whistle after their 2 minutes are up, they're let out. Propp without a helmet, steering it ahead. Puck kick back now for Beers. Beers ahead on to Brian Propp, moving in. Fires a shot that's tipped to the high glass. And Svoboda over to get it. Right on him is Janney. Shoves him to the wall after it's dealt back up for Mike McPhee. McPhee headmans for Courtnall, and he tips it in deep and goes racing after it. First one there, though, is Galley. Connects with Propp. Shoveled one that went into Carpenter. Propp tries again, and this time connects with Neely. What a hit by Neely on Svoboda. Now he's helmetless. Neely, it's at his goal!
Peter Svoboda will think twice about going head-to-head with Neely on a hit before he does it next time. That was Svoboda that went down. It gave Neely time. It gave Janney time. Patrick Waugh went down. Neely didn't jam it upstairs all the way, but it was halfway up the net. And that's all of the space and all of the time Cam Neely needs. What a rocket he can launch just with a little snapshot. And he sent one by Patrick Waugh to tie this game at 2. But he helped himself again, Mike, with that body of his, with the big hit, when Svoboda actually came to him to take him out and got crunched.
Janney and Propp get the assists, and Keane goes barreling right into Bork. Now it is Don Sweeney turning one into the pile, has to go the other way, and Ewan right on him. Boy, they just don't let up, do they? Good hitting out on the ice tonight. Ewan to the corner, and Ron Hogarth got tangled in all of it as Bork tried to rush in. Now it's Ewan the outside, shoved right off by Bork. Ewan paws back at him. Gilchrist goes to get it. Gilchrist able to tap it to the point. It is brushed loose by Ludwig, but a 3-on-2 for the Bruins as Janney leads it ahead. Hands over to Brian Propp. Propp looking for Janney. Has a man breaking and fired it into the path of Waugh. Around the boards, chopped by Ewan. Don Sweeney, a one-time keep. Back over for Janney. Feeds it across. Neely a pass, and it was tipped loose by Ludwig. Or it might have been on Propp's stick. A good play by Craig Ludwig on defense. The Canadiens ice the puck. 15:20 to go in the second period. Thundering ovation here at Boston Garden with the game tied at 2.
Sort of this Neely-Svoboda collision that Peter Svoboda died on. Went down, lost his helmet. Neely kept on going. Now at this point, Svoboda's out of the play. You get into a man-to-man situation, one-on-one, and you lose and you go down. Somebody's got to be open. That's what happened there, and not a better guy to feed Cam Neely than Craig Janney.
Wesley controls, moves in, slugged one that was off the pad of Waugh. Skrudland locks up his man, Bob Sweeney. Gould tried to trickle one through. Gould behind, tried to get to the front for a stuffer, and was denied by Donald Dufresne. In the corner, Dufresne able to kick it along to Skrudland. Wanted to deal it back up the wall, but Dufresne cut it off, and he just lost one back down. Wesley goes for that one. Richer right on him as Wesley peels away and sends it on his backhand back out. Dufresne there to shovel it back in. Nearly went to the seats, but instead rode the rail around to Skrudland, who was leaped into by Wesley. And it's Corson trying to get away from Byers, who wanted to slug it along, but it is Skrudland instead. Little jab from behind by Bob Sweeney. Puck to Corson, shovels one, and it went wide. Now Richer deals one around in front. Score! The Canadiens have been able to break the tie 3-2. A puck lay out in front. I thought Moog might make a move out to get it, but he decided the better of it. And the Canadiens able to stash it home, and Brian Skrudland involved in the big play.
I bet he's wishing he had right now, Mike. The Canadiens wanted to jam more, screen more, and just drive the net more. And they really have done that here so far in this hockey game. We haven't even played half of the game. But Montreal has been pretty successful at doing just what you're seeing on this play. Crowding Andy Moog. Trying to end up with overload situations in front. And you know what? Corson had a guy all over him and still was able to get some lumber on it and put it away.
So Skrudland gets an assist. So does Richer on the feather pass. And Corson with a goal and a knuckler by Svoboda that is fought off by Moog. 14:20 to go in the second period. 3-2 in favor of Montreal. Neely, nice move to get by 2. But it is cut off by Courtnall and dealt back out again. Andy Moog glides out of his goal. Carbonneau first one there, so he just scoops it with a big goal stick around the boards for Bourque. Pass kick back over to McPhee. McPhee tested by Bourque, and he swung one to the corner. Galley wedged off. Able to get it to Neely, then back up to Janney again. Janney assisting on both the Bruins' goals tonight. Denied this time by Chelios. Then over it came to Ludwig and stiffly back to Chelios. Chelios passes ahead now to McPhee. McPhee taken to the wall by Galley. Carbonneau drops it on back to Courtnall. Courtnall shoveled one and it went wide and struck the back of the cage. Galley takes it. 14 shots for Boston and 12 for Montreal. A lot different than our story the other night when the two teams at this point in the game had neither reached 10 shots yet. And of course there were no goals at this point in last night's game either, and tonight we've had 5. Dumped along and Svoboda rocket and a save, and a rebound is popped wide by Bobby Smith. Poked away from Walter, but he went right back to get it. Now with it, pivoting behind the net, Lemieux tries a stopper and across the goal mouth. It came wide. Desjardins back to Lemieux. Hurried shot and it got the glass. Bobby Smith stepped into by Bice. Svoboda drive and a save made by Moog. Flicked away by Wesley. Walter taken to the wall by Bice. Still they battle it along the boards. Walter kicking it along to Lemieux. Lemieux trying to pull away from Beers. Right back to Walter again. Behind now for Bobby Smith. Locked up by Galley. Smith trying to peel away and can't. Centers off of Lemieux. The battle on and Walter tried to stuff it home. And he's denied by Moog. There'll be a penalty coming up. It'll be against Boston. On the delayed call, Waugh heads to the bench. Lemieux lifts it back in. That'll take care of it as Gould touches up. Montreal to go on the power play in this 3-2 Canadiens lead in the second period. Let's pause for this regional break.
Sports weren't as strong as they wanted to be along the boards in Game 1, but boy, if they turned it up in the second period here. Came very close to making it a 4-2 game. That goal right there by Shane Corson made it a 3-2 game. John Bice is off for slashing. Ryan Walter just about stuffed that one home to make it the 4-2 game, and there was Bice slashing him from behind.
So he sits on a slash, and Montreal goes on its third power play with the puck back to Chelios. Then off for Richer, who just gotten his loose stick. Bourque takes it and lifts it back down the ice. Peter Svoboda glides behind. Randy Burridge right on him like a hawk, so it's shoveled back over to Chelios. Chelios just his second game back after missing 21 with a bad knee. Behind the net, it's poked loose by Moog, dealt over to Bourque. Bourque bangs it off the wall, and it causes a leaping Wayne Bonney to get out of the way as it swirled back down the ice. Waugh sets it up there for Chelios. 1 minute and 20 seconds to go on the Montreal power play. Ahead with it comes Peter Svoboda, along with Richer and Corson. Svoboda pulls off and rolls one around it. Nearly handcuffed Moog. He gave it right away to Corson. Tries to center and it's blocked away. Corson, nice yank along the wall to Richer. Richer controlling, looks for Svoboda, then gives it to him, but it was a tough pass. And the Bruins take over. Don Sweeney crisply on now to Brian Propp. Has Burridge up the wing. Propp with a drive, and it went wide off the glass. Rode the rail right back along, and Galley was freight trained by Strudlin. Chelios picks it away. 50 seconds to go. Chelios nearly turned inside out by Carter, then goes down. Puck kicked loose by Carter as Chelios hangs onto his stick. Carter moves right in on Corson. Puck popped away to Carpenter. And boy, just a model of tenacity that time was Carter's. We have a couple of players locked up back in the Bruins zone. Corson and Gary Galley.
We still haven't seen Dave Poulin in this period. Randy Burridge was out with Brian Propp to kill the first part of this penalty, but Dave Poulin obviously has a problem that he's trying to deal with because he has not returned to the Bruins bench. We did not see him come out for the start of the second period. Corson and Galley will end up with minors on this play most likely. Now we are being told that Dave Poulin has some type of shoulder injury. Haven't been able to confirm it, but that is the report that is circulating downstairs. Dave Poulin with a shoulder injury. He is not in uniform. He is undressed, and he will not be back tonight.
Well, these coincidental minors still leave the Canadiens on the power play. A 5-on-4 for 34 seconds. 10:55 to go in the second period. Another good one tonight from Boston Garden. Canadiens have the lead 3-2. Bobby Smith rolls it in deep. Wesley goes back to play. Wesley tries to jam it loose. It's picked off by Lemieux. Lemieux outreached by Carter, but Lemieux came back with good body position, and Daniel fires a rocket that is just casually flipped away by Mogan, dealt down by Carpenter. Waugh sets it up for Daniel, speeding back up ice in the final seconds of the power play. Pass broken up by Carter. Out of the box is Bice. Carter finesses in, but offside on the play was Carpenter. And so the clock is stopped here with the teams back at full strength. 10:20 to go in the second period, and the score 3-2 in favor of Montreal. Let's pause for this regional break.
Full strength, something different in tonight's game at least.
It is Desjardins with a pass that is tipped loose by Smith. Don Sweeney flips it across, and it is Svoboda to play it there. Then across to Desjardins, and Desjardins bangs one back down. Icing will be called as Bourque goes back to put the lumber on the rubber, and back it'll come near Waugh. You know, we've talked about the great number of penalties that have been called tonight in contrast to the first game. That's not necessarily a condemnation of Ron Hogarth, nor the system. It's just been that way for the longest time, and when one man makes the calls, it seems that men will differ from night to night, as long as the players know what the deal is.
Yeah.
That's the thing that had to be a shock to both teams in the first 5 minutes to 10 minutes of the game.
Well, Mike Milbury and Pat Burns are a lot calmer now than they were in the first period when all the penalties were being called. Mike Milbury's interesting to see at a press conference. The coaches gather after the morning skates and after the games, and all of the press people crowd around them and ask them questions. Mike Milbury will say whatever comes to his mind, whether it's printable or not. I mean, first thing that comes to his mind, boom, it's out his mouth.
Neely flips. Chelios up with it, and Chelios lifts it back down. Over the end line, it will trickle, but not until Bourque had put the lumber on it. So no icing here. Puck flips off of Brian Propp and into the seats, and so a rare halt to play here in an action-packed second period. Midway in that period, 3-2 Montreal.
Only a defenseman. He lost Alan Peterson to the high stick major in the first period, but he is without Dave Poulin, who will not return to this hockey game, so he's down a forward and down a defenseman.
And he's down a lot more than talent when he doesn't have Poulin. Ludwig hands on back to Chelios. Chelios flips, and Courtnall tried to swipe it back out. Punched along, and Wesley went for it, but it went by Chelios. Neely battles with Ludwig and centered one, but the Canadiens were watching it well. Now it's Propp. Back along to Neely. Spins it back for Beers. Across Janney, a drive, and that forced aside by Waugh. Janney again. Denied, though, by Mike McPhee. Good strip of the puck by McPhee, and he just walks back and dumps one along for Chelios. Clock winks down to 9 minutes to go in the second period. Montreal ahead in the game by 1. McPhee tried to get through and couldn't. Centered one, but that went off Beers, and then he crunched him. Along the boards, it popped off of Carbonneau. Wedged off by Burridge. Strength against strength behind the Bruins net as Burridge and Carbonneau go at one another. Wesley waltzes in and ties up with Courtnall, and a little more after the whistle. Now away from this, Janney was about to move into that pile when Chelios said something, and Janney wheeled 180 degrees and started back at Chelios, and Craig Ludwig, the peacemaker, came over and got between them. That was away from what you were watching.
I'm going to turn the clock back to the first period. See if we can pick up where Dave Poulin got hurt. Well, he went down on that play, and we're being told that it may be his shoulder. And at this point, we can't be sure that that was the play, but could have been the play that led to the injury that is keeping Dave Poulin from returning here.
Greg Janney, except for game 1 of this series, has had 2 points in every game that he's played in the playoffs. This tonight is Janney's 6th game, and counting tonight, he's had 5 two-point efforts. And just beautiful setups for Propp with the skate and Neely with the stick. Young man can do it all. A Hobey Baker finalist a few years ago for that treasured award. Sellout crowd looks on here as Gilchrist, 41 for Montreal, will move in to take the faceoff opposite Bob Carpenter. One of many native sons from Massachusetts in the NHL, and 5 Massachusetts-born players on this Bruins roster. Galley flings one off the glass that skipped on back to Peter Svoboda. Svoboda watched by Carpenter. Puck turned on to Gilchrist. Motors ahead and shovels one that's directed by Moog off the shoulder of Ewan, and it popped wide. Don Sweeney wheels it around the boards. First one to it is Gilchrist. Bumps though with Carter. Don Sweeney tried to tap it ahead, and Carpenter, out of traffic, jammed it over to Svoboda. Peter Svoboda of the Montreal Canadiens just pivots away, dumps one along off of Ewan. It pops free over to Don Sweeney. Then back for Galley. 8:05 left in the second period. Puck guided ahead now to Carter. Carter headmans on for Carpenter, and Carpenter tried to drop it back but couldn't. Along the boards, Carpenter flipped once. Svoboda there locks up with Carter. Puck turned back to Carpenter. Canadians take over, and Mike Keane starts it ahead. Keane's pass was off Gilchrist. Rushes in with Ewan. Gilchrist crosses, shoots one right on goal, and Moog made the stick save. It is Bourque. Nice shovel pass over to Carpenter, gets it back again, and Ray Bourque rushes the Montreal end. Feeds it over to Carter, fires, he scores!
The right guy had the puck on the rush. Ray Bourque had the Montreal D back right in over the blue line. That let him pass over to John Carter. And did Carter launch a rocket? Wow, what a shot by Carter. But Ray Bourque was given so much room, you have to give him room. I mean, he's one of the greatest in the game at coming across the blue line. And then John Carter just launched a rocket right up over Patrick Waugh's glove to tie this game at 3. What a shot. And you know, one of the keys to the whole shot was how quickly he got rid of it. I mean, you're taking the pass across your body. You got to tee it up in one motion. It's not like a one-timer. You got to stop it, make sure that it's stopped in the right place. And if you don't get it off right away, your angle disappears just like that because the speed that you're skating down the left side with, if you don't get rid of it right away, you've got no angle. So Carter, part of the secret on that one was he got rid of it very quickly.
Boy, he didn't have much room to go with it. He went right in the top shelf. A couple of the Canadians went back and had some words with Patrick Waugh, trying to encourage him here. Puck sent all the way back down, and Galley goes for the icing touch-up, right in to get it. Corson leaned on him, but he got the touch made first. Icing called, and back near Waugh it'll come. We'll return to Boston Garden in just a moment.
Really has carried the play in this period. We got 7:14 to go. And Boston has come back a couple of times from Montreal leads, but Boston really hasn't gotten their forechecking game going tonight at all, Mike. They haven't dumped and chased. They haven't established anything in the corners. If anything, it's kind of a reverse of game 1. Montreal really has had a strong game along the boards and in the corners, but here we are with a 3-3 tie.
Wayne Bonney, the veteran linesman, getting them set. Weird sort of drop. The puck came right back out in front, and Dufresne cleared it away. Corson tipped one ahead. Here's Richer up the wing, but we get a halt to play. And what do we have? Perhaps a pass over 2 lines. Yeah, I think that's going to be the call. Didn't get a signal initially. But play is stopped with 7:06 to go in the second. McPhee, Richer, and Corson for Montreal. Prop, Neely, and Carter for Boston. Montreal has had a 1-goal lead 3 times.
There's John Carter. You know, Montreal wanted to jam the net. A couple of Montreal goals have come just from that. Richer's goal was in close. Shane Corson was a loose puck in front. And even McPhee, even though it was on the rush, he had to drive for the net and get the deflection. Boston goals have pretty well come on the rush. That last one by Carter, the one by Neely when Janney set him up, the first one by Brian Propp. He at least moved in from the top of the circle to let his shot go.
Well, the phrase the Canadians used to the principal man, to the star player, was beatable on Andy Moog. Well, both goalies have been beatable tonight, and in all ways, high and low. But that doesn't mean they've necessarily played awfully. The better of the 2 goaltenders has been Moog. Puck picked up by Janney, can't get through, and it's slugged back out again by Carbonneau. Wesley connects with Bourque. Defended away by Chelios. And back to get it is Ludwig. Then along to Courtnall. That went through Mike McPhee. Neely just shoves it back to Bork. Looks toward Don Sweeney, but now has to pivot away as Mike McPhee is back on him. Raymond Bork with a pass to Janney. Flipped ahead now, and Prop moves into Neely. A shot, and trapping it, and hanging on is Patrick Waugh. Great action here tonight from the Boston Garden, and the game still tied at 3. The battle for the Stanley Cup continues out west with Campbell Conference action. The St. Louis Blues host the Chicago Blackhawks at 7 Eastern. Then the Edmonton Oilers take the ice against the Los Angeles Kings at 10:30 Eastern. Tune in tomorrow for complete Stanley Cup action on Sports Channel America. Check your TV listings for the game in your area. One other game tonight, and that has just gotten underway from Madison Square Garden in New York, where the Rangers are entertaining the Washington Capitals in their game number 2.
You know, Mike, neither team has done as good a job in this game as they did in game 1 of controlling the opposition superstars. Richer scored one. He's had a couple of shots. Cam Neely, though, you can't give him open ice. You saw what he did on that last play that Patrick Waugh stopped. We also saw him fire one right by him earlier in this period. So Neely and Richer, those are the guys you got to concentrate on. And if you can knock them out of the box, you got a great chance of winning a game.
Boy, was Prop ever reaped from behind, and he's out flat as Daigneault got him from the back. And Cam Neely comes over and has words with Ron Hogarth. Prop is back up again, and play will resume.
I don't see any call being made on this. Let's take a look at the play from ice level. Lemieux and Neely were locked up, and then Daigneault came to get Prop. Would that not have been a penalty in the first period? I ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
I don't think it will be a very long meeting in the jury room. They will not have to send for sandwiches. Don Sweeney up the boards. Flipped one that popped back out, and it's fed back across for Daigneault. Daigneault stepped into by Brian Prop. And around the wall, Neely jostles with Bobby Smith. Sent to the front, but that tipped aside by Beers and advanced by Prop. Bobby Smith starts back in, wedged off by Neely. Dumped back out by Don Sweeney. And ahead comes Janney. He's got Neely breaking. Can he get it to him? No. Second effort. No. Big plays made there by Daigneault. Neely flips one in front, and it's spiked away. Back down the ice by Svoboda. It is Wesley back. Icing touch-up made, and then a hit on him by Lemieux.
That's something I'd like to see called, Mike. When a guy's really at a disadvantage when he's going back there on an icing touch-up the way Wesley was, and Lemieux took the opportunity to crank him. Now, as long as it's fair game, a lot of guys are going to do that. But, you know, a defenseman's in such a vulnerable position, especially if a guy happens to be catching him and decides to hit him about 6 feet from the boards. I mean, guys have been paralyzed like that. If you don't get right next to the boards before you get hit, you can lose your balance and pile into them. I'd like to see some of those called.
You know, a guy with Colorado named Joe Watson had his career ended on an icing call. Bob Daly's career, defenseman with Philadelphia and Vancouver, had his career ended on an icing call, and it's situations just like that that can permanently take care of a guy's livelihood. Game is dangerous enough as it is. We have 5:11 to go in the second period. Spirited contest tonight from Boston Garden. We hope you're enjoying it. The game is tied at 3. The shots are even at 17. So Montreal nearing the shot total that they had in entire game 1 when they had 20 and Boston 28. Ryan Skrudland, hard-nosed player for Montreal, in against Bobby Carpenter for the faceoff. Moving away with it is Peter Svoboda. Little pass that is brought on now by Richer. Richer ahead, has Corson. The trailer gives to him. Corson a shot, and getting a piece of it was Mode. It is Richer in traffic, deals it back off. Pivoting is Corson, trying to stuff her, and it was blocked aside. Carter just lays it back out for the Bruins, and the Canadiens with a good attack that time. It is Desjardins with a pass, tapped ahead by Corson on for Richer. Given a shove by Galley. Carter steered it, but not out. Desjardins flip. Christian and Carter try to muscle it further, but can't. Puck dealt along now to Richer with 4.5 to go in this period. Handed across to Desjardins. And Desjardins just blasts one. Oh, and Moe got his stick on it, but it squibbed the wrong way on him. Around the boards, it's sent for Courtnall, but it went by him all the way to Peter Svoboda. Svoboda, who was a scratch because of the flu in game one, watches the play develop ahead to Mike McPhee. Wedged by Bob Sweeney. McPhee with a good fight off and a shot that was saved by Moog. And a stoppage of play on the net being dislodged. 4:06 to go in the second, and the game here at Boston Garden remains tied at 3.
They've got the net put back on its little posts. Mike McPhee showed us some of his courage driving for the net. Mike McPhee, to me, is a guy that's going to get a lot of votes for the Selke Award as the top defensive forward in the NHL. But he's a consistent scorer. He'll put in about 20 a year, and one of the unsung guys.
Puck back to Chelios. Slides it across to Ludwig. Big drive, and it's blocked aside by Moog. Rebound poked behind, and Glenn Wesley up with it. Wesley for the Bruins slides it back out. It's feathered on down deep by Byers. Going back to get this is Ludwig. Shanks it around the boards, and it's squibbed by Burridge. Dealt along by Beers. And then Gilchrist could get no further than Lyndon Byers. Beers with a pass, kicked aside by Burridge, dealt back in by Ewan, swept back into Ewan, who kept the play alive, dumping it off the boards, and Moog set it up. Now Bob Beers on defense with a pass that skipped right over to Chelios again. Chelios floats it across to Gilchrist, couldn't get by Byers, and it's Keane stepping by. Bob Beers defending on him and swiped the puck away, knocking it off his stick. Two aside, go to the corner after it, and play is stopped. So a face-off to result near Andy Moog. You know, you were talking about McPhee. The Canadiens are a wonderful organization for rewarding defensive players. They don't often get the very good numbers at the forward position. Guy Carbonneau, of course, for many years has been that way. And Mike McPhee, too. But McPhee does have a goal, the first goal in the game tonight.
Boy, that's Todd Ewan's stick that came up and got Wesley as he came off the glass. You know, we talked about this building being smaller. It's 83 feet wide. That's 2 less than regulation. It's 191 long. That's 9 feet short. But in square feet, it works out to 1,147 square feet less than a regular building. Over 1,000 square feet of real estate less out there. There was Gilchrist trying to get by Byers.
Oh, Courtnall nearly slithered one through, and a centering pass dealt away by Don Sweeney. Daigneault to control that one. Blasts it back around the boards, and it's tapped loose by Moog. Going to get it is McPhee. Hit on the play by Galley. Puck back to Don Sweeney again. Then along to Prop. Took the hit from Carbonneau after he dealt it back out. Daigneault couldn't get it through. Neither could Courtnall. Puck tapped ahead off of Dufresne. Courtnall slings it back out into that short center ice, and on with it now McPhee. Wedged right off by Galley, and McPhee flops to the ice. Now it's sent ahead by Christian on to Brian Prop. Nice little pass to Don Sweeney, who walks in. Sweeney to the corner, defended by Daigneault. Good shoulder, pass in front, and Neely just knocked off the puck. A good shoulder check by Mike McPhee. Oh, they had Neely right where they wanted him. Beers dumps it back off, and the puck skipped over to Dufresne. Even though there have been 6 goals scored, it still hasn't taken away from the quality of the goaltenders, and also some of the solid play by defensemen and forwards in deep at the front of the net. And there was a perfect example as the big 50-plus goal sniper was out front.
You know, you're looking at a guy that is really helped by Ray Bourque when he's in the lineup. That's Bob Beers, the rookie defenseman. And the poise factor of the Bruins when Bourque is in the lineup is so much higher. Cam Neely couldn't pull the trigger on this one. He was in front, got spun around by who else? Mike McPhee back in doing his good defensive work. And I think Montreal is somewhat similar when Chelios is in the lineup. You draw from the great players. And when a Ray Bourque is in the lineup, the young defenseman that the Bruins have can draw from him. And it would have been so tough for the Bruins it was tough anyway to protect that 1-goal lead without going into a shell here in game 1. But with Ray Bourque in the lineup, it made it a lot easier. Everybody seems to have a higher level of poise.
What a hit by Neely on Svoboda. The puck came across to Claude Lemieux. Lemieux back up ice, blasts one to the wall, hoping for the ricochet to Walter. He gets it. It's poked through, but Wesley there. Shouldered right off by Bobby Smith. Walter tries to reach it for Lemieux. It comes back to Svoboda. Missed for Lemieux. Got Andy Moog. Moog around the wall for Carter. And Carter tries to start out, but is just checked right off by Ryan Walter. Boy, that's what we've seen so much of in this series, and it's been great. On comes Svoboda. Pass went behind Lemieux. Started back out by Carter on to Janney, who moves in. Has Carter breaking. Janney, nice pass to Neely. Shovels it back. Galley a shot. Ricocheted right to Desjardins. Starts it back off the boards for Lemieux. A minute 25 to go in the second period. Game tied at 3. Lemieux shovels one wide. Off the back of the goal. It stops there, and they battle away at it, and Ron Hogarth from that side could not tell. And now we have Bourque and Lemieux, and everyone moving into the pile, including the 2 Montreal point men.
This is a dimension that separates Ray Bourque from every other defenseman in the National Hockey League, besides skill. When you take a look at the top rear guards and the guys that are always in the running for the Norris, Ray Bourque has a mean streak in him that'll surface, and he's so strong from the waist down. His leg strength is so strong that when he gets you in a shoving situation, he can crunch you against the boards. Lemieux's a big boy. Lemieux's 215. And Ray Bourque just stood right up to him. Neely and Svoboda met earlier in this period, and they met again right there. Neely just leveled Svoboda and then dropped down himself. But Peter Swoboda's got to be getting pretty tired of Cam Neely. Yow! Boom! Right in the chest with the left shoulder.
Well, Bourque and Lemieux had quite a few words afterwards. And Bourque will head down with only a minute 16 to go in the period. Carter will leave as well. And the Canadiens players will go too. Lemieux having some words with the Bruins as he walks by. They have a pane of glass. I'm not sure if you could see it there, that swings down to protect, maybe you can, protect the visiting players who are going off, yeah, from the Bruins at the bench. I believe that's called the Chris Nyland panel.
Yeah, I think it is too. Here's how it all started. Right at the bottom was Bourque and Lemieux. And it was Bourque that went after Lemieux. Lemieux took a swat at him behind, and then Ray said, not so fast, pal. You see what happens when your star player, a guy like Ray Bourque, ends up involved in one of those shoving matches, though. It took about half a second for 3 other Bruins to get there and jump into the situation to try and help him out. And that's just instinctive. There's no written rule that says go there and help the big guns, but you know who your leaders are. You know who your generals are out there. And like any good soldier, you just jump in there to protect.
Ray Bourque, 2 minutes for roughing. Montreal penalty number 28, Eric Desjardins. Boston penalty number 31, John Carter. 2 minutes each for unsportsmanlike conduct. Penalty 18 minutes, 44 seconds.
Everything cancels out. Desjardins unsportsmanlike, Lemieux high stick, Carter and Bourque roughing.
Well, don't forget these 2 teams head to Montreal for Game 3 on Monday at 7:30. Plus the New York Rangers and the Caps move to Landover, Maryland for their 3rd game. And all the action begins at 7:30 on Monday on Sports Channel America. Check your local TV listings for the game in your area.
1:15 to go in the second period, and the game tied at 3. Skrudland intercepts, flips into Wesley. Wesley for the Bruins defense, guides it on to Bobby Gould. Gould marches ahead, just shoves one to the corner. Chelios in after it, and Carpenter took him to the board. Feathered back off by Skrudland and chopped further by Richer. Striding for it is Corson, but it's hacked away from him. Puck skips back to Chelios. Patrick Waugh started behind the net, anticipating the puck would come there, and fell down. That was what the reaction of the crowd was, as Richer a shot, juggled and then trapped on top of the goal by Andy Moog.
Well, you know, this game tonight has resembled Bruins-Canadiens hockey more than I thought it would. I mean, the Bruins-Canadiens matchups of old. Everything is coming at such a high price in this game. The real estate in front of the net, getting the blue line. Look at the crowd that surrounded that Shane Corson as he crossed the blue line. And then Richer was able to get this puck, not all the way because it was semi-deflected, but then Andy Moog popped it up on top of the net. And then the shoving started again. But every inch of space has come at such a high price tag, which it usually does in the playoffs. Galley made a nice play, just spinning around, taking a piece of that puck. Richer didn't get it all by any means.
mentioning inches of space, and you actually gave the square footage difference between the standard 200 by 85 rink and this one.
Yeah.
Does that have an effect on the game? What in particular does it do?
Yeah, well, it puts you into contact situations far more often, especially in the shallow corners. You can't tiptoe around in this building. You got to play a contact kind of game. You have no alternative. 1,147 square feet less. That's a two-bedroom apartment. That's about a $2,000 apartment on the Upper East Side in New York.
Kropp guides this one ahead, on now to Neely. Cam Neely starts, drops to Christian. Nice poke check from him by McPhee. Carbonneau seemed to have overskated, but is able to pick it up and hand back on to Chelios. Chelios pulls by one. Checked by Wesley. Wesley behind, leans on Chelios, and they go to the corner. Good hit by Wesley on Chelios. It's thrown behind for Courtnall. Can't get it to the front because of Galley, and the puck lodged in his equipment, and so Gary Galley will just hang on and get a halt to play.
Well, the official word on Dave Poulin is that he was hit on the side of the neck in the first period, and it really stretched some shoulder nerves. So he has shoulder. Yeah, I've never heard of stretched shoulder nerves, but he has some damage in the shoulder and will not be back for this one.
Well, that stacks up as quite a loss to the Boston Bruins for the rest of this night. A 3-3 tie with 16 ticks of the clock to go in this second period, in what has, from the start of the game to this, become a sauna here. It is very hot here, and you can just imagine, despite the temperature of the ice itself, that the players wearing the heavy equipment, especially the goalies with 25 to 30 pounds more, must be shedding a lot of water in this game. Skrudland ties up with Christian. False start. Goaltenders have reported as much as 10, 11 pounds worth of water loss in the course of a game, and I would have to think it'd be even more than that tonight. And Ray Bourque, who goes through as many as 4 and 5 pairs of gloves due to perspiration in the course of a game, might make this a 6 or a 7er tonight. Chelios back to get it in the last dime's worth of the period. McPhee, Richer, Corson, Propp, Neely, and Carter are the goal scorers for their teams in this contest. Down to the last before the siren. Corson touched, the siren sounded, and still some more jawing, this time between Skrudland and Dave Christian. But the teams part and will head off the ice to get a well-deserved rest. In the second period, Richer from Corson and Skrudland at 1:54. Neely from Janney and Propp at 3:43. Corson, 3-2 Montreal from Richer and Skrudland at 5:30, and Carter from Bourque and Carpenter at 12:28 to tie this game at 3. In the period, Montreal with 14 shots. The Bruins had 8. Two period totals, 23 for Montreal, 17 for Boston. Let's pause for this regional break. Sports Channel America's coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs will continue after these messages. And at Boston Garden, 3-3, period 3 about to start. For those of you just joining us, we'll tell you that Alan Peterson was flagged out of the game on a high-stick major at 7:09 of the first. And Dave Poulin did not return to the ice for the second period after sustaining an injury on a collision. We have Lemieux and Desjardins in the penalty box for Montreal. Carter and Bourque for the Boston Bruins. And the team's at full strength as the third period begins. Craig Ludwig, last one that goes high around the glass. Pop back over, and Skrudland given a good hit on the play by Wesley. Puck picked up, and Richer unable to walk to the slot. It's brought back up by Bobby Gould. Checked every inch of the way initially by Corson, and then a good hip check on him by Ludwig. Oh, and a hit on Burridge by Chelios. Along it comes now to Skrudland. 3 hits in the start, first shift of the period. Richer leaned down on the play, and glancing back was Galley to see if there was to be a penalty. We get a stoppage of play. Oh, Stephen Richer is hurt. Galley had given him a thump back behind the net. And we don't know if it was from that or perhaps in trying to turn afterwards. But the big sniper is down on all fours for Montreal.
Well, while Stephen Richer is down, we will show you how it happened. He was going full speed when Galley took him down. Oh, he twisted his knee, didn't he? You saw his skate get caught on the boards. And he may have twisted his knee. Might get a good look at it from this angle. Yeah, his left skate went along the boards. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe strained some ligaments in his knee or his ankle. He twisted pretty good. Well, in the second period, there were some interesting situations that led to goals. Some physical plays. Here's one of them we wanted to show you. Cam Neely just freight training Peter Swoboda. But you'll notice on the play that Mike McPhee, number 39 of the Montreal Canadiens, is in no man's land. He doesn't have anybody. And by the time he realizes he should have Cam Neely, it's too late. Bingo. Neely scored. The Bruins made their share of mistakes as well, too. Watch this play along the boards and watch how two Bruins stand back right there and watch Strudlin get it to Corson, and then Richer just slips it back out in front, and then it's up for grabs. Corson was able to put that one home. Montreal has led 3 different times in this hockey game. They led on that goal 3-2 before John Carter came back and blasted one by Patrick Waugh. It was a give and go. Bourque gave, then got it back, then made the whole play happen by backing the defense in, slipping over to John Carter, and the rocket was launched right up over Patrick Waugh. That was the last goal of this hockey game to date, and it tied it at 3 in the second.
Stéphane Richer will retire below. Boy, you talk about key losses tonight. Poulin out for the Bruins, and now Richer sidelined, we would gather, the rest of the game, but we may be surprised for Montreal.
You got to watch his leg here that jams against the boards. It's his left leg. Watch his left leg. See his skate now. He's really twisted there. I mean, his knee really did twist. He's got a problem for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Skrudland-Corson line is out, but they move Courtnall up on the right wing. Daigneault and Dufresne to be in back. It is Galley across, takes it back from Wesley. Gary Galley's pass skipped across for Burridge. He's hit by Skrudland. Canadiens even more of a physical presence than the Bruins here in the early stages of this third period. We've played only 50 seconds of the period. Game tied at 3 if you're just joining us. Wesley back for an icing touch-up, and back near Waugh it'll come. We'll return to Boston Garden after these words.
Find themselves without key performers. Stéphane Richer has left the ice with a banged-up leg, it looked like. He was leading the Canadiens with 6 goals. Dave Poulin has 5 for the Bruins. Cam Neely scored his 5th tonight, so they're the top scorers for the Bruins. But Dave Poulin also left this game with an injury during the first period. So key people out of the lineup as we speak for both of these teams.
Icing called against Montreal. 1:08 gone here in the third period, and back it will come near Waugh once more.
Let's show you what these teams have done in the power play through 2 periods. The Montreal Canadiens have had more power play time, almost 7 minutes, but the big number is the shots on goal. How are you going to score if you only have 1 shot on goal through 7 minutes of power play? 0 for 3 for the Bruins, 0 for 3 for the Montreal Canadiens. And power breaks, well, they haven't been significant either. Power breaks are breakaways, 2-on-1s or 3-on-2s at the blue line. You see Boston had 4, had a couple of shots. Montreal had 2 with 1 shot, but that's to be expected. These numbers should be low when you're talking about excellent defensive teams. There shouldn't be the breakaways, the 2-on-1s and the 3-on-2s.
Bruins tap one ahead, and on comes Brian Propp, one-on-one with Chelios, and the shot just smothered by Chelios, but then cleared back into Neely. Neely tried to flip one in front, and sprawling to the ice was Propp. Around to get it is Chris Chelios. Chelios bringing it back up ice. Pokes it by Bourque. Chelios knocked down by Bourque. They both go to the ice as it's wrapped around by Moog for Neely. Given a good shoulder check by McPhee. Puck sailed through Ludwig, and to play it is Guy Carbonneau. Across to Chelios, then over for Ludwig again. Bourque back to play for Boston. Captain of the Bruins with a pass that's ladled by Janney to Neely, then back ahead for Propp again. Propp pivots, turns it to the corner. Neely tries to get there. Good body position by Chelios to prevent it. McPhee stepped into by Beers, and the rookie Beers able to turn away. McPhee got it from him though, and it popped one back to Dave Christian. 1980 U.S. Olympian feeds ahead to Carter. Big drive! Oh, and a grab by Waugh. Carter, we saw earlier, has a big cannon, and it fired once more.
He didn't get that one quite as high, but he said, I'm sure he said to himself, look, I beat him on the glove side before, I'll try it again. But also, he's coming in off the off wing as well. little tougher to go back to the long side when you're coming in like that. You almost always pull the shot to the short side, and that's kind of what Carter did. Didn't even look like the shot was on net, but we got a real good look at John Carter's big slapper in the second period that tied the game at 3.
Off the face-off, Montreal wins it. Svoboda behind. Carpenter right on him. Puck skipped on back, and Beers goes to get it. Beers pulling away from Walter. Then across for the deal, back out by Wesley that misses for Carter. Svoboda to play on the Montreal defense. Peter Svoboda able to move it back out. Drives it over for the dump in by, that time it was by Desjardins. Swung around by Moe. Taken by Bobby Carpenter. Back come the Bruins again. Carter tips it and Christian carries it. Poked away from him by Svoboda. Bork regathers and hands back across to Beers. Beers on the turning stick of Carpenter, shovels on to Christian. Christian trying to pivot away, has Carter drifting to the front. Just too many Canadians there, and the play breaks down. Carpenter locks up with Lemieux, is coming by as Smith. Bobby Smith pivots and backhands one right into Moog. Another shot, and Moog with another save, and still another. 3 Montreal shots, and Andy Moog got them all. 16:47 to go in the third. Thanks to him, still tied.
The post, and he just stood there and let about 3 consecutive shots from sharp angles hit him. Little reverse angle look at it. Bobby Smith's backhander got through to Moog, but you'll see that he's tight to the post, and he just stands there. Lemieux shot on the forehand, then Lemieux shot on the backhand, and he realized he had time to move back into his cage and get down and stop play.
Christian on the tie-up with Skrudland, and the puck skipped off Galley. Galley able to play this one, looks ahead to Christian, deals it up to Burridge, has Bob Sweeney breaking. Burridge with a carry, shovels one that's deflected to the glass by Dufresne. Getting away from that hit was Daigneault. Bob Sweeney was bearing down on him. It flipped ahead for Courtnall, able to kick it across to Shane Corson. And Corson just plops one to the corner that Moog will set up behind for Galley to play. Gary Galley walls it back out, and Daigneault to get it. Left it though, and Burridge came by but couldn't make a play. Now it's followed up by Gould in a shot that went wide. Burridge rammed by Dufresne. Bob Sweeney locks up there and given a jolt from behind by Daigneault. Bob Sweeney pivots to the slot, but he's outmanned by the Canadiens. It's tapped on by Skrudland. Corson hands back ahead for Courtnall. And Courtnall booms into the glass with Bork. Puck kicked over to Bork, and Courtnall right after it. It's dumped back off for Gould. Fight loose by Courtnall, but he's outfought by Gould. Bob Sweeney pops one into the glove of Craig Ludwig, and a pass across 2 lines stops play. 15 minutes and 43 seconds to go here in the third period as a beleaguered Randy Burridge sits at the Bruins bench.
Well, we're being told that the Montreal Canadiens will not comment on Stéphane Richet's injury. As you look at Burridge getting cranked by Dufresne along the boards, well, I'll comment on it. It's a first-degree sprain of the medial collateral ligament in the left knee. Out for 3 to 5 days.
Dr. Clement.
I have no idea. That's what it looked like to me. I mean, I've messed up that ligament on my left knee enough times to know just where it is, and that's the kind of position you had to be in to do the damage. Ray Bork taking out Courtnall along the boards. You know, Mike Milbury has said a couple of times this season, he said, a lot of people would like to see us be a lot more physical, but I think they're fools. He's got guys that are physical. I think what people want is them to rock them, sock them, forechecking, and bodies banging everywhere. But when you look at the Bruins lineup, they don't have a lot of big forwards. They got some big forwards, but they're not a team that can play that kind of style up front.
Nope. Their size and everything has changed. You may have noticed Burridge jawing at the bench with someone. It was with Skrudland, and that argument didn't end until the puck was dropped and their attention was guided back to the ice. Beers flips one. Off for Channing. Chased right off and hit high and hard by Chelios. Then McPhee goes down in a collision with Propp. It is worked back out by Keane. Up now to Ludwig. Then over for Keane. Looked as though he might have been offside. Puck dealt along and Moog is there. Flipped off by Beers. Chopped along past Ron Hogarth. Chelios guided one toward the net that was turned aside by Moog. Oh, a double collision on Beers, and able to walk away from it as Beers as he was hit by both Keane and McPhee. Ahead with us now is Don Sweeney. Took a shoulder from Carbonneau as he dumped it to the corner. There's less room out there than in most NHL rinks, and boy, are we seeing collision after collision in this one tonight. Moog wraps it around the boards, and Bork steers it back up. John Carter in this 3-3 tie, hands on to Carpenter. Drops it toward the corner, but Svoboda is back. 14 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the third. Carter locked up along the boards, then peels away. Bobby Smith right on him. Carter able to pull aside. After him this time is Svoboda. Carter squirms loose again. Poke check by Smith. Svoboda took a punch from Carpenter as the Canadiens start back, and Gilchrist with a pass that wouldn't go through. Back on Carpenter. Oh, and a drive that went just wide. Carter moves in. Kicks it around for Carpenter, who's set down. Desjardins with a pass that's kicked loose by Bobby Smith. Walked on by Lemieux. Lemieux wedged down by Galley. Into the corner they go. Puck winds up underneath, and we get a stoppage of play. 13:42 to go in the third, 3-3. Let's pause for this regional break. Yeah. There is a lot of give to that glass, isn't there?
Sure is.
It's a good thing. Brian Skrudland, opposite Christian. Burridge, with whom Skrudland was really jawing at the bench, is not out just now. But that's a part of the war of words as well as action that takes place in a series in which you play 7 games in 15 days. Canadiens start to wheel back up ice. Fortnall wedges one. Galley able to cut it off. Galley dumps it along, and Byers is there. Byers given a jolt from behind and then retaliates with one on Skrudland. And what will we get here? Ron Hogarth and Skrudland having words initially. Skrudland wanted to see if this is going to be a cancel. And it looks as though that both will go. Skrudland at least is headed off. Let's pause for this regional break. Sports Channel America's coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs will continue after these messages. We welcome those of you who have been watching the Washington Capitals, easy for me to say, New York Rangers game. Washington ahead in that one by a count of 2-1. Here it is tied at 3. 13:15 to go in the third. Minor penalties to Byers of Boston and Skrudland of Montreal. Teams are at full strength. Puck kick back to Galley. Slugged across by Cam Neely, but picked up by Dufresne. Leaned on by Janney, but Dufresne able to muscle it in deep. Oak sets it up now for Bork. Bork, the Bruins captain, headmans on to Janney with 2 assists tonight. Janney pestered from behind by Keane. Floated it to Prop. Checked to the corner by Chelios. And boy, this is the kind of jostling and hitting we have seen all night. Really entertaining sport here tonight at the Boston Garden. But now Neely preoccupied with McPhee back down the ice.
They're both going to go too, Mike. Hogarth looked back at them and signaled them both off. But in this hockey game, both of these teams are now without key people. In the first period, the Boston Bruins lost Dave Poulin. He has some stretched nerve damage in his shoulder. And moments ago, Stéphane Richer left the ice surface after banging into the boards at the end. We suspect that he has either leg or knee damage of some type, but the Canadiens won't comment on it. Here's the action behind the play. Neely tried to rip McPhee's helmet off. Here are the official calls now. High sticking to McPhee and Neely.
30 penalties in the game tonight. 15 minors to Montreal, 13 minors, a major and a game misconduct to Boston. That was Alan Peterson on a high stick major in the first period. So the Bruins going with 5D. Puck sent across now to Ludwig. Ludwig's pass missed for Walter and went back down, and we'll have an icing touch-up by Gary Galley. Stopping the clock with 12:24 to go in the third, and back it'll come near Patrick Waugh. Boy, these teams have gone at each other hard tonight, and yesterday in the newspapers too. Particularly critical of Andy Moog were the Montreal Canadiens and their goalie Patrick Waugh.
You know, they said they were going to shoot high on Andy Moog. They said that they could score on Andy Moog up high. And even Patrick Waugh said, look, I watched from my end of the ice, and even I could tell that he's beatable. How many high shots have you seen on Andy Moog here tonight? Not many. The Montreal Canadiens have had 26 shots on goal. They have blocked and jammed and driven the net well enough to score 3 goals, but they haven't had a lot of firepower from the slot area, from the circles, from the hash marks. Basically, Boston hasn't given them a chance to get any of those shots away to test Andy Moog high.
Well, McPhee's was a one-handed tap from the right circle that just got inside the left post. Richer, a little backhander at the left of the goal, and Corson just muscled one in from front at the goal crease. So they haven't succeeded on any high ones. Lemieux left it behind. Randy Burridge right after him, got it on to Gould. Ludwig just takes him right to the corner, though, and Gould ties up there with Craig Ludwig. Burridge peels off to watch, and it is frozen to the boards as Ludwig, stronger, was able to seal it, and a faceoff will come near Waugh.
Well, folks, strap yourself in for a high-speed excitement as auto racing is coming to Sports Channel. Tune in for the Busch Grand National 200 live from Lanier Raceway in Gainesville, Georgia. It's a NASCAR racing event next Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific, live and exclusively on Sports Channel. This event may not be available in all areas, so please check your TV listings for further details. How valuable do you think a 2-goal lead would be in this series? You're talking about teams that can just crank it right down to a halt when they have to. Boston has come back from 3 1-goal deficits in this one, but so far, we played the better part of 2 games and no team has led by 2 goals yet.
Good point. Burridge back to Beers and a shot, and it's snapped up by Waugh as Bob Sweeney was coming by, and so was Svoboda. Bobby Smith came in to reinforce what Svoboda was doing, and then a late thrust on Burridge. That came from Desjardins.
It's been this kind of game. Good little shot by Bob Beers. Just get it to the net and hope that somebody can get a rebound. You know, with Dave Poulin gone for the Bruins and Richer gone for the Montreal Canadiens, kind of an interesting people missing from the lineup in the sense that Dave Poulin is one of the best the Bruins have at protecting the lead. Stéphane Richer is the guy that Montreal needs to put out on the ice if they're trying to catch up to another team.
Patrick Waugh resumes his goaltending pose here for the faceoff that will be taken by Bobby Smith of Montreal and Bob Sweeney of Boston. Just note that Stéphane Richer has just returned to the Montreal bench. So apparently he's well enough to come back to the bench and take some shifts.
I said 3 to 5 days. I meant 3 to 5 minutes. Those medial collaterals, they heal up so fast these days.
Especially with that freeze on him.
Oh, yeah.
Burridge with a hit on Svoboda. Kick loose from Bobby Smith. Along comes Lemieux. Across it came for Bob Sweeney. Starts it back. 3-on-2. Bob Sweeney tried to get in. Bumped right off by Peter Svoboda. Puck wedged up along the boards, and Svoboda and Sweeney go back at each other again, and the puck frozen. There'll be a neutralized faceoff to result. 11:25 to go in the third period. Game tied at 3, and Richer coming out for the shift.
Stéphane Richer, you can see him doing some compulsories out there just to test that knee. Remember, it was the left one that kind of got twisted under him. We'll see when the puck is dropped if he can get her going full speed.
Gilchrist wins. Dufresne plays. Back across for J.J. Daigneault, and Daigneault hands on to Richer. Little tap ahead is a good one to Gilchrist. Gilchrist, though, good checking by the Bruins to force that play down, and it's headmanned on to Bobby Carpenter. Moving along with Christian, Carpenter slugs it in deep. Spiked loose by Waugh, picked up by Dufresne. 11 minutes to go in the third, and this game is tied at 3. It's been that way since 12:28 of the second, when John Carter buried one into the top shelf above the catching glove of Patrick Waugh. Icing has stopped the clock again, and a face-off to come back near the Montreal goaler.
You know, one thing the Bruins haven't done a lot of tonight is dump it in. I mean, that time Bobby Carpenter had to dump it in, and something positive happened. The Canadiens ended up icing it, so the face-off is coming back down into their end. But the Bruins have consistently tried to beat whoever was out there on defense, and Montreal's had good support coming back. The Bruins haven't had that much attack. They really have not. 18 shots for the Bruins, 26 for Montreal.
That means 1 shot for Boston, 3 shots for Montreal. Strudlin and Christian tie up. Once more, they'll go at it. Ron Finn drops it. Christian wins. Bob Sweeney waits, fires, and that one grabbed off by Waugh. And some sparring again. Dufresne and Carpenter.
Well, that real estate's going for about $5,000 a square foot right now in front of Patrick Waugh, and that's the way the second period ended off as well. Dave Christian won the draw, and Skrudland bear hugged him right away. As soon as you win the draw clean, then it's just a mad scramble. Try and get in front to screen. That's what Bobby Carpenter did. Dufresne tried to lock him up. And you know what? Patrick Waugh had a clean alley. The Bruins really could have done a better job of getting in front for a screen, but nobody was there.
Well, because sticks were involved in this, both players are going to be coming off.
Bob Carpenter, 2 each for high sticking at 9 minutes, 9 seconds.
Manpower on the ice not affected. Dufresne and Carpenter sit for high sticking. 9:09 the time of those penalties. Corson tips it back out. Bourque flips it along. Off the stick of Richer. It's dropped back in by Carter. Set up by Waugh. Driven along by Desjardins. And it's carried back up by Skrudland. Pestered by Janney. Skrudland tries to get through to Corson. Flipped one and it ricocheted off a leg. And then Andy Moog not flying. The net dislodged, and there's going to be a penalty to the Canadiens. Brian Skrudland is going nuts. He didn't believe there was going to be a call at all, and now it's been assessed on him, and Skrudland is hot.
You know, one of these times, Ron Finn is going to let Brian Skrudland go, and he's going to pick up an extra. Ron Finn has restrained Brian Skrudland from the get-go tonight. Let's see what happens. Skrudland dropped the Corson, and Corson got it through.
9 minutes, 33 seconds.
Well, you be the judge of that one. Brian Skrudland possibly could have avoided Andy Moog, but did he intentionally go into him? Tough call. Brian Skrudland didn't like it. You got to know Pat Burns doesn't like it. But the Bruins now get their power play out there. And you know what? We said that the Bruins have a decided advantage on special teams. So far in these two games, the Montreal Canadiens have done an outstanding job in killing off the Bruins power play, which ranked number 2 overall during the regular season and hasn't missed a beat yet in the playoffs.
This will be the 11th power play for the Bruins in the series, and they've scored on only one. Mike Milbury frantically pointing.
He wants the face-off outside the blue line. Not going to get it.
Bruins get the puck nonetheless, and it is fed across now for Bourque. Turns it back up for Wesley. Wesley fires it around the glass, and it pops over near Craig Janney. Checked by Ludwig. Ryan Propp nudged it along now for Neely. Points it slowly back to Wesley. Left it behind. Trying to start loose is Keane. Leaned on by Wesley, and that's just enough to throw the play off, and back come the Bruins again. Bourque deals it over for Janney. Janney flips, and Wesley will be a little careful in keeping this time, but he couldn't get a play going. Glenn Wesley right back across, and Bourque hacks it in.
That wasn't Wesley's fault the first time. That puck hit something on the ice, either a crack or a chunk, and just stopped. That's why Wesley left it behind. I mean, it looked worse than it was.
Now Pat Burns is unhappy. Puck flipped out of play at the Montreal bench.
Watch Wesley right here. You see how the puck just stuck there? Then he had to take down Mike Keane. That has to be what Pat Burns was upset about. There was no call on the play, but Ron Hogarth was 7 people deep behind the play. He couldn't see it at all.
So it remains a power play as Wesley sits, and Gary Galley is out to replace him at the left point. On the right side, it's still Bourque. Christian with Neely on the right, Propp on the left. Pat Burns, the Canadiens coach, has out Guy Carbonneau along with Mike Keane, and it'll be Ludwig to work it back along with Chelios. 9:49 to go in the third. 1:23 on the minor to Brian Skrudland, and our game here at the Boston Garden is tied at 3-3. The Canadiens in this period have 3 shots on goal, and the Bruins have 2. So only 5 in the first 10 minutes of play here in the third. So that's pretty much indicative of the tight play we saw in Game 1, that the Bruins won by a score of 1-0. Bourque got out of the way of the Carbonneau hit, then along for Galley. Neely battling with Carbonneau. Janney back to Bourque. Bourque shovels over for Neely again, then back to Galley, hurries it over to Bourque once more. Bourque fakes the drive, Neely a drive, hit the outside of the goal. Turned along by Propp. Carbonneau can't clear, pivoting is Chelios. Puck pops up in the air and Neely works it on back to Galley. Galley across to Bourque again. Bourque to Galley once more, some sparring at the front of the net. Galley creeps in deep. heads behind. Ludwig rams him to the boards and glass. And the puck lifted back out by Keane. Play is stopped and the faceoff will come back into the Canadian zone, and that hit by Ludwig is just typical of what we've been seeing in this game tonight.
Great penalty killing, though, by Montreal. And you know what? The Bruins are going to have to start making some adjustments. They're looking for that fine play. They're trying to cut it a little too fine. Sometimes the Canadiens are backing off and letting them get that shot from the point. But when the shot is there, there doesn't seem to be anybody in front to deflect or to screen. And that's why the shot isn't coming from guys like Bourque and Galley. What they want to do is try and work a triangular play, find a seam, get it over to Neely for that one-timer like he took when he hit the side of the net. But Montreal has done a great job of taking away what the Bruins have relied on as bread and butter play. They're a couple of bread and butter plays all season long, so now it's time for the Bruins to adjust. Montreal's penalty killing has been excellent.
Now out now, the Canadiens will have Ryan Walter. Chelios will stay, so will Ludwig. But Walter will be accompanied by Gilchrist up front. The Bruins keep Neely out, Janney as well, and Dave Christian. Bourque and Galley will remain at the points. Christian will try to win from Walter. Chelios gliding in too early, so that delays things, and Ron Hogarth over to warn him. Ron Finn to drop it. From the tie-up, it's Chelios stepping behind his own goal. Drills it off and right into Galley. Kicked it ahead for Neely, but they say that he did it with his glove involved too, and so a hand pass to the Bruins will stop play with 23 seconds to go on the power play. Gary Galley was saying this morning that he felt his career was at the crossroads when he finally came to Boston. He said, I was starting to get to be an older player in the 26-27 range, and I hadn't really played that much with Washington or with Los Angeles. But they had a lot of faith in me and tried me here, and now I see my career leveling out and becoming something good. And what's more, he has a new daughter this week too. That makes it even better.
You know, the Bruins struggled with Galley in the lineup for a while, but they kept going back to him, and that's how you build a confidence. Gary Galley started to realize, hey, look, I can play some defensive hockey, and even if I make a mistake, they're going to keep putting me back out there. And Mike Milbury really stuck with him. He has turned into be a real character guy that's had a great playoff so far.
Neely and Chelios. One may come and perhaps two. They both will.
You have to be careful at this stage who you go off the ice with. This is a toss-up. If Chelios goes off with Neely, that's not so bad for his team. If Neely goes off for Chelios, not so bad for his team. But Cam Neely is a 50-plus goal scorer this year.
High sticking to Chelios, roughing to Cam Neely. Still 19 seconds to go on the Bruins power play. Now with Neely off, Bob Carpenter has come on, and John Carter. They are the wingers for Dave Christian. Christian able to walk away from the faceoff and now pivot to control. Back to Galley, shovels to Bourque. Bourque back to Galley once more. Drives one off for Carter at the side of the net, but it clicked off his stick, and Desjardins winds the boards for Gilchrist. Gilchrist battling with Galley in deep. Svoboda had it kicked loose. Carter out in front. Shot hit off wall. Puck packed along toward the boards, and Gilchrist after it. Chased right off by Christian. Trying to dig it out and doing it is Carter. Walled to the boards and glass by Skrudland. Still they battle along the boards. It kicked over to Christian. Penalty time is up. Carpenter points it. Galley shovels one, and that one skips to the corner. Desjardins guides it back off. Kept alive by Bourque. Picked up by Christian. Christian tries for Carter at the front. Coming by the Canadiens, but they aren't able to clear. Bourque kept it alive. Waugh behind the goal. Has trouble, but is able to shovel it off to Skrudland. Deals it back, but Bourque keeps. Across to Galley. Fires one over for Carter. Carter looks to Galley. One-timer! Stopped in front by Carpenter and then trapped by Waugh. 7:43 to go in the third. The game still tied 3-3.
The Capitals a 3-1 lead, and then 25 seconds later, Dale Hunter sends it toward the net, and John Druce will deflect it past John Van Beesbrook. Capitals up 4-1. But then a minute 17 later, the Rangers come back. James Patrick moves in on Don Beaupre. He hits the post, but Beaupre knocks it in with his glove hand. 4-2 Capitals in period number 2. Now back to Boston.
Terry Murray made the goaltending change. Don Beaupre in for Washington. Boy, did he surprise everybody, I think including his own team in Game 1 by starting Mike Liut. And as it turned out, Mike Liut did not have a strong game. Those are the kinds of decisions that keep coaches awake for days before the decision and sometimes nights after the decision. Tough call.
Especially since in the New Jersey series, John Cunningham went with Sean Burke after he had gotten a win out of Chris Terreri, and Murray was himself critical of that move. Felt that was against the textbook. Puck kept alive by Wesley. Wesley able to pivot to the corner, but Dufresne right there to tie him up. Stepping in is Burridge. Burridge trying to get to the front. Wrestled off, and the puck tipped ahead by Daigneault. Brought back up by Corson. 7:20 to go here in the third period. Game tied at 3. And it's been that type of contest tonight. Boy, you go nowhere without paying a price. Skrudland in front. Richer. Save. Rebound. Score! Richer with the shot. And Moog with the stop. But Richer comes up with his second of the night. It's 4-3 Montreal.
What an effort. He scored it with one hand on his stick on the backhand. Here's how this play started. It looked like it was going to die. Not only did Corson go down, he lost his stick, but then Bob Beers tried to stick handle by. Not there, Bob. Stéphane Richer was in behind. Skrudland slipped it to him, and you can see that Andy Moog got the first one. You can't do much after that. Watch it. Bob Beers made a great play there, and then a play that really cost his team. He thought he could stick handle out. He couldn't. Skrudland into Richer. 2 guys went to Skrudland. There's the goal. One hand on his stick on the backhand, just with a little tap of his own rebound. And Stéphane Richer has given the Canadiens a 4-3 lead. 7:10 to go now in regulation.
Skrudland gets the only assist on Richer's second of the night, 7th of the playoffs at 12:50. Weiss on the draw with Gilchrist. Puck played by Galley. Dumped across. Punched back out by Don Sweeney, and Courtnall well in the zone, and so as it came back to him, offside was called. Stopping the clock with 7 minutes even left here in the third.
Well, for a while there, it looked like Stéphane Richer wouldn't even be around for this third period. In the second period, it looked like he had twisted his knee, but he came back out not that long ago. And here is the goal that has given the Canadiens a 4-3 lead. You talk about staying with it. Great concentration by Richer to reach back and to one-hand the puck by Andy Moog.
You wouldn't measure that stick, would you? Did you see it there beveled toward us? Probably about a half and not a micrometer more. You don't take those kinds of chances in a tie game third period with having a stick with too big a curve. Galley flips one ahead. Behind Jamie. Cut off by Desjardins. Mamota ahead. Hands to McPhee across the Courtnall and a shot. Oh, and it went off Moog and glanced off the post too. Galley starts back for the Bruins. And 14,448 collectively breathe a little better. Clock stopped with 6:29 to go in the third. On a 2-line pass, Montreal has the lead in the game 4-3, and it was almost 5-3.
Right off the post on the deflection. A lot of the Canadiens on the ice actually raised their hands, raised their stick. They thought it was in. But you know, the Boston Bruins coaching staff all collectively know and have said, if we can stop the Richer line, and that features Richer, Skrudland, and Corson, we got a great chance of winning every hockey game as long as we can stop them. And it has been that bread and butter line that has carried Montreal in this game here.
Courtnall out right now along with McPhee and Carbonneau as Bourque goes back to get it. Ray Bourque's team trailing in this game by 1 with 6:10 to go in the third. Puck fed ahead by Carbonneau, but Wesley will take it. Glenn Wesley with a pass that Bourque had trouble corralling and now spins it right back across, and Wesley has trouble too. Carbonneau rushes him, and so Janney has to come by. Bourque will try the other side perhaps this time. A little spinorama from Courtnall. Then it's handed to Neely, and back, and Bourque was headed away. Courtnall drifts back in. Crisp pass to Neely checked off. Wesley trying to dance free, and the Canadiens just giving up no room here. Neely along to Janney. Right back across for Wesley again. Wesley able to pump it through, heads to the corner to play it. Ludwig there. As Wesley went heavily into the boards. Puck along for Courtnall. Kept alive by Janney. Bumped it further, and Brian Propp came in. Bork has to play at center ice. Lost to Courtnall. And Courtnall trying to finagle his way through all sorts of traffic, just cannot. Ran out of time, ran out of space. 5:15 to go in the third, 4-3 Montreal.
And Richer, but keep in mind, Mike Milbury is without Dave Poulin, the guy that was supposed to center the line that was going to play against the Struden line. Dave Poulin has not played since the first period. And it has been difficult for Mike Milbury with his new lineup because he's had to juggle his lines to get Randy Burridge out there consistently against Richer.
Andy Moog sets this up for Galley. Walter Smith, as well as Lemieux up front. Daigneault and Dufresne in back. Bruins bringing through on to Carpenter. Bob Carpenter with a shot, ricocheted off. That time Daigneault, and Smith tries to work it back up. It kicked over to Walter. Headman pass, ricochets right back deep. Daigneault to play again. Lifted one out of play. Let's return now to our New York studios and Bob Papa.
Stand by.
At Madison Square Garden in New York, the Capitals will strike again in period number 2. Scott Stevens with the puck weaves his way in. Dale Hunter pokes it past John Van Beesbrook. Capitals lead it 5-2, and now the Rangers have taken John Van Beesbrook out, and goalie Mike Richter is in. Now back to the Boston Garden.
Well, that's why they play best of 7. It's never settled in the very first game, and that's what we're finding here tonight. The Bruins and Montreal have gone hard at each other. 4:33 to go in the third. This has been far more a physical game. In the first period, it didn't seem to be quite as much as it has in the second and the third. And ironically, the heavy penalty total came in the first period. Penalties have lessened a good deal in the second and third.
Ron Hogarth here is sending a couple of players off the ice. He said they made a late change. Ludwig's going to have to go back off the ice, and I think he's trying to send Chelios off too. That's more of an inconvenience than anything else for Pat Burns. Yeah, Dufresne is coming back on, and Chelios will go off.
Well, Neely and Carbonneau to take the draw. Janney to the right of Neely, Propp to the left, with Wesley and Bork the defense. Mike Milbury looks on from the Boston bench. Canadiens prevail on the faceoff. They had the decided edge in faceoffs in the first game, and that's been a Bruin weakness this season. Puck back to Bork. Hands across to Wesley, tries to get it through but can't. It's kicked loose for Courtnall to spin back in, and so Bork will have to retreat to play. 4:15 to go in the third. The Bruins trail 4-3. Janney pulled up, avoiding the hit by Mike McPhee, but the Canadiens drop it back in, and emerging with it is Bork. Little tap ahead for Wesley. Wiped out, anticipating the check from Carbonneau. Bork works it back onto Janney now. Drops it off to Bork. Ray Bork flips, tipped by Janney, and it went wide. Neely back over for Propp, but it kicked in front. And Ludwig swings one out, and here's Courtnall trying to get by Galley. Courtnall a backhander, and that one just gloved down by Moog. Neely in traffic, flips one off Galley. Hustling in is McPhee. Galley pumps it into him, and the puck feathered along by Propp to be played by Bork. 3:35 to go in the third. Neely sets it up for Janney. Rushed on the play by Skrudland, who's played a tough game tonight too. Taken right to the boards and glass by Bork. It is Moog turning it along for Galley. And the Canadiens have 4 players in the zone. Puck swung by Bork, turned over to Corson in front for Skrudland, and it's tapped away on the bounce by Neely. Janney had it back checked away by Keane and just dropped right back in.
And now that the Canadiens have the lead, Stéphane Richer gets to sit and watch while Mike Keane takes his place on the Skrudland-Corson line. Keane's better defensively.
Bork a pass on the money to Bice. Tried to get it to Burridge. It kicked back over for Dufresne. Lifts one beyond the reach of Galley, and it pops back out in a 2-on-1. Keane moving in. Has Corson. Keane sets up for Svoboda, and a sprawling play made that time by the man back on defense, the rookie Bob Beers. Takes the pass from Galley. Beers with a pass that ricocheted ahead, knocked down by Bice. Bice trying to get further, checked off by Svoboda. Into the net when a Bruin. Off the ice will come a Canadian. A tripping call. And maybe a little more now after the whistle. Randy Burridge and his hustle bring about a Montreal penalty. With 2:32 to go in the third, the Bruins are going to go on the power play for the 5th time. Interference the call, and the Canadiens have spun the chamber once more.
Boy, Donald Dufresne did his best to try and get John Bice to bite and to take a penalty, because Dufresne knew he was going off. But at the bottom right of your screen, you'll see Randy Burridge cut for the net. He is upended and pushed right into the net. So with 2:32 to go, don't go away, folks. Get a popcorn refill and another beer or Coca-Cola right now, because we're going into a penalty situation, a power play situation for the Bruins, who trail by 1.
Donald Dufresne, 2 minutes for interference. On the penalty, 17 minutes, 28 seconds.
Pat Burns wants the best alignment out there possible. Coming off his keen, Brian Skrudland comes on to work with Carbonneau, and back it'll be Ludwig and Chelios. So the strength of the Bruins, the power play, and the weakness of the Canadiens. They've not done that well in penalty killing, but in this game they've been splendid.
Well, they sure have. And the Bruins have not tried to attack low at all, meaning in behind the net, behind the goal line. The Bruins seem to have only tried attacking from up high, near the blue line. We'll see if they adjust.
Neely missed, and not by much. Bork keeps it alive along to Neely. Dumps it for Christian. Has Propp, but can't get it to him. Chelios wheeled it. It came right back to him. Chelios again. Ricochets on the Truman. Can't get it by. And Bork sent one wide. Brian Propp to get it for the Bruins. Tried to work to Janney. It's cut off by Carbonneau and flipped back. Good reaction by Bork to keep it from going further. Bork across now to Neely. 2:05 to go, third period. Boston trailing 4-3 on the power play. Neely heads behind the net. Brian Propp giving a jolt, puck to the back to Bork. Across to Janney, some sparring at the front of the goal. Janney dips the shoulder, works it on back to Bork. Bork shovels across, one-timer, but he scores!
Well, that's the bread and butter play that Montreal simply would not give the Bruins until now. Mike Keane is way too deep, number 12 for Montreal, way too deep in front. There was nobody in the middle slot. Look at the room that Bork has to pass it over here to Cam Neely. That is the pass that Montreal's box did not allow the Bruins but one time earlier in this game. And they gave them all kinds of time on that one because Mike Keane was in way too deep. There was nobody there for him to watch, and he had sagged way back in instead of looking over his shoulder. And I'll tell you what, Ray Bork is going to take what you give him. And the Canadiens gave Ray Bork that pass over to Cam Neely. And once he gets to his tape, you saw what kind of rocket he can shoot. This game is tied.
Deafening roar at Boston Garden. For the fourth time, the Bruins have come from a one-goal deficit to tie the game. 1 minute 49 to go when Neely rocketed in his second of the night. Bork got one assist and Janney got the other. Wesley flips one back in and Peter Svoboda goes to get it. Svoboda back behind. Carpenter tried to cut him off and couldn't. Svoboda headmans for Skrudland. Puck ricocheted over to Bork. Turns it back along for Carpenter. On the pivot it's Gould. Flipped it into Dufresne. Guides it back along for Skrudland. Given a hit by Carpenter. Gould shuffles it back in and then took a hit from Corson. It is Waugh turning it along for Dufresne. Flops one back out and Bork tied up. Here come the Canadiens. Skrudland in. Fires and it's deflected wide by Don Sweeney. Carpenter with 1:05 to go in regulation, tied at 4. On to Bobby Gould, a drive, and that deflected to the glass. It is Chelios as Gould hammered back off by Dufresne. Chelios able to motor back out. Left it behind. Onside play, though, as Corson heads to the corner. Shane Corson flips one in front, and a shot by Lemieux was foiled by Bourque. 3-on-2 Boston. Ahead with it comes Christian. Moving in with Bourque. Checked off from behind by Chelios. Back come the Canadiens 3-on-2. Carbonneau up the wing, now to Corson. For Carbonneau a drive, and a save made by Moog. Wonderful action. 4-on-2 Boston. Bourque across. The pass back. No matter. Offside call with 23 seconds to go in regulation time, and this game tied at 4. Neely shoving across the way with Corson after Neely had caught at Lemieux.
You may have noticed Mike Milbury going up and down his bench after the Bruins tied it. I'm only guessing, but I got to think that part of what he was saying is, let's get this baby right now. Let's not sit back. The Bruins have had their chances, and as a result of a 3-on-2 breaking down one way, you know you're going to have a 3-on-2 going the other way. It's a simple matter of the numbers, and that's what happened. Good defensive plays led to wide open play there for about 40 seconds, and the best save of the game for Andy Moog came off the shot by Guy Carbonneau when he made the toe save.
Well, it's worth your cable bill, isn't it? What a hard-fought contest, and it's not solved yet. 23 seconds to go in the third period. Game tied at 4.
Boy, Brian Klopp took a shot to the side of the head from Shane Corson.
Crowd silenced a bit now. Some of them sitting back down. Some of them still standing. Chelios couldn't get by. Carbonneau slugs it in. 15 seconds away from overtime. Bourque with one last thrust left for the Bruins. Left it behind though, and Courtnall moves in. Fires, and it's kicked back out by Moog. A siren will sound, and it'll take at least one extra period to settle this one.
Cam Neely is on a rampage out there. He took Chris Chelios and just about cut him in two. Well, we've got overtime. I got a feeling it's going to start pretty well the way this one ended, too, with all kinds of bodies flying everywhere.
Moog out for the challenge, denying Courtnall what would have been the winner. Russ Courtnall with the blast. And Moog got it. That became the 31st Canadian shot of the game. 2 goals were scored in the third period. Richer, second of the night, 7th of the playoffs from Skrudland at 12:50. Neely, second of the night, 6th of the playoffs on the power play from Bourque with 1:49 to go. Shots on goal in the period for Montreal, 8. And for the Bruins, only 5. 3 period totals, 31-22 Montreal. We are tied at 4. It'll take at least a 4th period that the Bruins have come up empty in overtime play. Let's see the one that forced the tie. Cam Neely banged it home. Montreal has won 11 of its last 13 Stanley Cup overtime games. 2 exceptions, and both of them were to Philadelphia. Bourque passes back over to Wesley, then back to Bourque again. Bourque's pass on the money to Janney, feeds it back off to Wesley, and Wesley flips one that's collared by Chelios and dealt back. Wesley tried to keep it, but it was a neutral ice and offside.
And neither of these coaches is trying to match defense against offense. They're going with their strength. The Richer line started, the Neely line started. Now Montreal is going to change, but you talk about the big gunners coming through for their teams in regulation. Richer with 2 goals, Cam Neely with 2 goals, and they are the only 2 players on the ice that scored over 50 goals during the regular season. You've got to have your big guns in tight situations, and both of the big names have come through for these teams tonight.
Chelios feeds it across to Ludwig. Back to Chelios again. If you're just joining us, a thrilling game tonight at Boston Garden that's in overtime 4-4. McPhee a shot deflected to the glass by Bourque. Carbonneau in to dump it back. It is shoveled along by Brian Propp for Janney. Then over for Propp. Nice move, nearly able to step by. It's brushed back into Bourque, who starts it ahead to Janney. Moving in with Brian Propp. Janney with a shot! And a save made by Waugh. Now it's back to Bourque. Fires a shot, and that went wide. A couple of players are locked up in the corner, and the puck wound up behind them. Stoppage of play. Waugh had a big shot to stop, and he did it. 49 seconds into the period, play is stopped.
It had to be a surprise to him as well. Craig Janney would rather pass any day of the week than shoot. But this time, look how Ludwig just backs in. Finally, Craig Janney had to know that he was well within his range. Let a good wrist shot go low to the left of Patrick Waugh that Waugh got down there to save. But Janney usually crosses and waits for, he'll wait all night if he's given the time for somebody to pass to, but not that time. You read, you react. You take what is given to you, and that time Janney did a good job of reading it.
Waugh in sudden death overtime in the playoffs is 8-2-0. Andy Moog is 0-2-1. Yeah, a tie in the playoffs. Remember 88 when the lights went out? Skrudland on the face-off with Christian. Bonnie set to drop it. It's kicked away by Christian, but played by Chelios. Has to go at it again, and it's knocked loose from him by Carpenter. Picked up, though, by Brian Skrudland from Montreal. Held back out, but away from Corson, and striding back to pick it up is Don Sweeney. Sweeney for the Bruins, taps it right back out again, all the way down, and there'll be an icing call as Svoboda arrives. So it will come back near Andy Moog. We want to welcome those of you who have been watching the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals. We are in overtime here at the Boston Garden. The tie score is 4. The big gunners tonight, Richer with a pair, Cam Neely with a pair. Richer, injured earlier, returned to the game to score the second of his 2 goals. Dave Poulin, injured earlier, has not come back. And Alan Peterson out of the Boston lineup when he was given a game misconduct for a high stick in the first period.
Dave Christian has been forced into a center's position. He's taken a lot of draws, but Brian Skrudland has pretty well eaten them up. Carbonneau has been dominant too for Montreal, but this time Christian's able to get some help from a winger, and he won that draw.
Stick came up from John Carter, and crumpled is Richer. What will happen here? Ron Hogarth is tagging Carter for a penalty. Montreal will get a power play in sudden death overtime, high sticking, and 2 minutes.
You know, at regular speed, you don't even see that hit. I didn't see Carter hit him at all. But Richer went down immediately.
1 minute, 17 seconds.
Let's see a slow-mo look at it. They see that caught Richer on the helmet to me. Maybe it creased across his face just a little bit, but it looked like it hit him in the helmet.
There's Richer with a hack to Carter's ankle. And Carter went down there. Carter looking back to see if that was to be called. For the 5th time in this year's playoffs, we have a power play in sudden death overtime. The Islanders and Winnipeg have won games in the first round with power play goals. We'll see what happens on this one. Canadiens will use Corson, Skrudland, and Richer. Svoboda and Chelios in back. To kill for Boston, Carpenter and Propp, Bourque and Wesley. A minute 18 into sudden death overtime as Chelios clips one that Svoboda goes in deep to play. Hit hard by Bourque. Corson there, tied up by Bourque on the wall. Propp came by but was nudged by Skrudland. Puck in front. Richer, a shot that was shut off by Andy Moog. Corson works the outside. Richer to play it there. Has Skrudland in front. Tries to get around and is denied by Bourque. Puck up to Propp and he's able to clear. Canadiens on their 4th power play. They're 0 for the prior 3. Chelios tripped up. Puck flipped across for the carry by Corson. Up the wing for Richer, but it's denied by Don Sweeney, and then Richer goes down. Corson up with it. Heads back behind. Tries a stuffer. Shut off by Moog. He hangs on.
Well, there's nothing pretty or fancy about the way Montreal is approaching this power play. And you know what? Anytime you move the puck back to the point when you're down low, the way Corson was, it's a tough spot to be in for the point man. You're always susceptible maybe to a puck bouncing over a stick, so the Canadiens are just driving for the net, trying wraparounds, and Andy Moog made an outstanding move with his stick there as Corson came around and tried to stuff. Montreal hasn't had a power play in this one since the second period. Boston had both power plays in the third period, scored on one late. Neely scored on it. But this is Montreal's first power play since the second period.
Walter, Smith, and Lemieux the front line now for the Canadiens. Svoboda in back with Chelios. It's one to Chelios. Then to Svoboda. Peter Svoboda dealing it off to Smith. Looks to Walter. Plays the outside though. Still holding. Bobby Smith across. Chelios fires. That one blocked away by Moog. To the corner they battle for it. Lemieux gave it up to Christian who clears. 52 seconds to go in the Montreal power play. Sudden death overtime. The tie score is 4. Lemieux trying to get by Wesley. Wedge to the corner. Centers, and it's sent away by Bourque. Brushed off by Bob Sweeney, and the Canadiens have to go back again. Randy Burridge up front along with Sweeney, and in back it is Bourque and Wesley. Same alignment for Montreal. Svoboda steering it ahead to Chelios. Chelios flips off Bob Sweeney off the rail. Kicked loose by Bobby Smith. Flipped in front by Bourque. Then balled back down on the bounce by Bob Sweeney. Man! 15 seconds to go on the man advantage. Walter trying to get through. Carried to the corner and given a jolt by Bourque. Puck face loose by Prop. Hands it up to Janney. He's got Don Sweeney along with him. Janney controls. Leaves for Sweeney. Picks up Prop, but the Canadiens up with it and started back. Bobby Smith pass tipped to the corner by Lemieux. Shift change Montreal. 16:35 in the first sudden death overtime. Game tied at 4. Don Sweeney scales one in off the boards. Tapped by Waugh. Rolled behind by Daigneault. Played along by Dufresne. Up for Carbonneau. Can't get out. Down to the ice of Canadiens. Puck's in over for Janney. Janney centers. They score! One for the new daughter in overtime. The Bruins win it 5-4. Gary Galley.
The Bruins trailed in this hockey game 4 different times. This is the first time they have led in the game, and it turns out to be the sudden death goal by Gary Galley that gave them the lead and the win. All kinds of Montreal Canadiens back in, but nobody picked up Gary Galley moving into the net. There were a couple of guys that could have taken him, but they all looked at Craig Janney. The play was kept alive by Galley. He deserved credit for that. But then when he moved it in, nobody picked him up as he went to the net, and Craig Janney put it right out to him. Mike McPhee was closest to him. You know, Mike McPhee was lying flat in his face out near the blue line, I think, hoping to get a penalty call. He may have waited a second too long to get the call because it never came, and he was out of position. There's McPhee right now getting up. He doesn't get to Galley in time.
Janney does the pump, and Galley, by that time without a hockey stick, did the biggest celebration of his career. His 5th ever Stanley Cup playoff goal, his 2nd of this playoff year. Wins it for the Bruins 3 minutes and 42 seconds into sudden death overtime, and already they are dancing outside on Causeway Street. And the ones who can get out of here will probably dance all night long. Richer and Neely traded goals in the third to force this sudden death overtime, and both teams were going full tilt. Andy Moog made a couple of splendid saves in the first 3 minutes, but it was Craig Janney who was a thorn to the side of the Canadiens tonight, and to virtually every other team all year long, that found Galley breaking for the net. Galley sent it home and sent 14,448 into exuberance. In overtime, the final score: the Bruins 5, the Canadiens 4. The Bruins lead the best-of-7 series, 2-0, both one-goal victories. More coming up on Sports Channel in just a moment. Some litter on the ice. There were hats, although Gary